Chapter 4469. The Imperial Palace. This supreme place was located in the sky above the imperial capital mountain. It was like an ancient temple suspended in the void, emitting an ancient and mysterious aura. In front of the main hall, two middle-aged burly men in purple gold armor stood upright, holding two long spears in their hands. Their eyes were cold and filled with a murderous aura. These two were experts with heavenly Tao will. Moreover, whether it was their purple gold armor or the long spears in their hands, they were all low-level sovereign divine weapons. Experts with heavenly Tao will and sovereign divine weapons were only guarding the entrance of the imperial palace. It was somewhat extravagant, but, on the other hand, this also represented the importance of the imperial palace. Although there were no treasures in the imperial palace, it represented the symbol of power and status. Naturally, it was not blasphemous. "Greetings, Your Majesty. Greetings, Your Highness." Following the arrival of the Emperor and Princess Yuxian, the two burly men immediately bowed and "Stand guard outside. No matter what happens later, don't come in and disturb us," the Emperor ordered and waved his hand. The imperial palace's door opened, and he quickly walked in. The two burly men were a little suspicious. The Emperor's face seemed to be very ugly. Looking at Dong Qingyuan, the 9 commanders, the Liu brothers, Dong Hanzong, and Dong Cha behind him. Because of Dong Qin, they also had an impression of Dong Cha. But what puzzled them was, why did Dong Cha follow them to the imperial palace? Although Dong Qin was talented and highly appreciated by the Emperor, Dong Qin was Dong Cha, and Dong Cha was Dong Cha. Dong Cha was just the patriarch of a direct family and did not have the qualifications to enter the imperial palace. What was going on? Could it be that they knew the whereabouts of Qin Feiyang and the others and were preparing to discuss a plan to rescue Dong Qin? As the group entered the imperial palace, the Emperor waved his hand and the door slowly closed. The space in the main hall was at least a few thousand feet wide and seemed very spacious. Everywhere, it was dazzling and magnificent. On top of it, there was a golden dragon throne with the Emperor sitting on it. He was like the supreme ruler of heaven and earth, looking down on all directions. He was extremely majestic. Princess Yuxian stood beside the Emperor. Her exquisite figure and angelic appearance made her look like a fairy. Perhaps because she was always by the Emperor's side, she had the aura of an emperor. There were no seats in the hall below, because only the Emperor had the right to sit here. However, even if the imperial palace didn't prepare a seat, why couldn't he prepare one himself? The inner demons took out 2 chairs, one for themselves and the other for Liu Jijing. The Emperor turned a blind eye to this scene, as if he was already used to it. What 2 arrogant fellows! Princess Moon Fairy kept rolling her eyes, which made her seem rather cute. As soon as Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, the 9 great commanders, and Dong Cha entered the Emperor Palace, they all knelt in the main hall with fear written all over their faces. "Speak. How do you want me to deal with you?" The Emperor spoke, breaking the dead silence. "Your Majesty, spare my life. We have already deeply realized our own mistakes. We will never dare to do it again. We beg Your Majesty to give us a chance to turn over a new leaf." "Liu Yuntian, Liu Yunfeng, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. We apologize to you. We apologize to you. Please be magnanimous and don't hold it against us." The 9 great commanders hurriedly opened their mouths. Even their words were trembling. They were terrified to the extreme. "Magnanimous? You plotted such a big conspiracy to assassinate us. If it were you, would you be magnanimous? Can you not hold it against us?" The inner demons sneered. "Now you know how to be afraid? Now you know how to beg for mercy? How could there be such a thing?" Suddenly, Dong Hanzong said, "Your Majesty, in fact, this was all Dong Cha's idea." "What?" Dong Cha looked at Dong Hanzong in disbelief. The inner demons and Liu Jijing were stunned. This Dong Hanzong was really willing to do anything to protect himself. Interesting. After coming back to his senses, the inner demons secretly took out the divine voice stone with a playful smile. "That's right. This was all planned by Dong Cha. We were all instigated by him." Before Dong Cha could react, Dong Qingyuan's eyes flashed and he nodded in agreement. "You, When Dong Cha looked at Dong Qingyuan again, he was dumbfounded. Even Dong Qingyuan said so? He suddenly became angry. How could a peerless genius and the commander of the Death God army be so despicable? Obviously, he wanted to make him the scapegoat. Dong Yuerong said, "Your Majesty, I can testify that it was indeed Dong Cha who suggested this. Don't go too far." "Yes, I did say so, but what am I? I'm just the patriarch of a lineal family. Do I have the guts to go against Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian? Isn't it because you plotted this behind the scenes?" Dong Cha couldn't help but roar at the group of people. It was too chilling. One was the person his daughter liked, and the other was his daughter's teacher. How could they do such a vicious thing and make him the scapegoat? "Don't talk nonsense. If you hadn't instigated us, would we have done such a thing in a moment of confusion?" Dong Hanzong shouted. "In a moment of confusion?" Dong Cha was so angry that he laughed and said, "Dong Hanzong, you are such a smart person. How can you be confused? If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. I really feel sorry for my daughter. How could she fall in love with a shameless scum like you?" "I'm sorry, I've never liked your daughter. It's just her wishful thinking." Dong Hanzong sneered. His woman should be Princess Yuxian. As long as he could marry Princess Yuxian, not only would he become the emperor's son-in-law, but he would also obtain supreme status and power. When the time came, he would be able to make a comeback. Who dared to say that he was a peasant from the collateral family? "Bastard! You're a bastard!" Dong Cha was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of old blood. In the past, Dong Hanzong was so polite in front of him. What a talent! Now, at such a critical moment, he showed such a hypocritical side. He didn't deserve to be a human. "You're still insulting me?" Dong Hanzong's eyes flashed with killing intent. He looked at the emperor and said, "Your Majesty, we are indeed guilty, but the culprit is Dong Cha. I hope your Majesty will punish him severely." "Then how do you think we should punish him?" The inner demons looked at Dong Hanzong mockingly. This kind of person must be killed as an example to others. Dong Hanzong's words were resolute and decisive, without the slightest hesitation. "Ruthless." The inner demons shook his head. He was already considered ruthless, but compared to Dong Hanzong, the difference was like heaven and earth. There was no comparison. Above, the emperor's eyes flickered, but he remained silent. Princess Yuxian looked at Dong Hanzong with a trace of disdain. A man with no sense of responsibility at all. Dong Hanzong and Dong Qin's relationship was known to everyone who was familiar with them. Previously at Raging Flame Mountain, Dong Hanzong had personally admitted that Dong Cha was his future father-in-law. But now, in order to protect himself, he turned hostile as soon as he said so. He displayed his ruthless side to the fullest. Did he think that he was smart? Even when it was a matter of life and death, he could think of a way to save his life. But he didn't know that his behavior was what made people despise him. Princess Yuxian turned to look at the inner demons and asked curiously, "I'm curious. How did you see through their conspiracy?" In an instant, the emperor, Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, the 9 great commanders, and Dong Cha all looked at the inner demons. This was also the question in their hearts. This plan could be said to be flawless, but how did the inner demons see through it? "It's all because my eldest brother is smart." The inner demons smiled proudly. The corners of Princess Yuxian's mouth twitched. "Can you not be so narcissistic? Do you know that you're asking for a beating?" However, this sentence also revealed that Lu Jiajin had seen through the conspiracy. Therefore, everyone couldn't help but lock their eyes on Lu Jiajin. Lu Jiajin smiled faintly and looked at the emperor. "It's actually very simple. It's because I know Dong Qingyuan's character too well. Regarding this point, I guess even Dong Qingyuan himself didn't expect that I would know him so well." Speaking of this, Lu Jiajin looked at Dong Qingyuan with a mocking smile. "You know him so well?" Not to mention Dong Qingyuan, even the emperor was somewhat in disbelief. This was because Lu Jiajin and Dong Qingyuan didn't have much interaction. What did it mean that he knew Dong Qingyuan so well when they didn't have much interaction? It meant that this person's observation skills were extremely terrifying. "I don't dare to say that I know everything, but I do know most of it." Dong Qingyuan seems to be easygoing and approachable, but in fact, He's narrow-minded and can't tolerate being offended by others. Moreover, he's ruthless and will do anything to get what he wants. Similarly, he's also done some research on us brothers. We're also vengeful people. In the 4 great continents, in order to make us deal with Qin Feiyang, he actually killed our relatives to trigger the anger in our hearts. If it weren't for the fact that someone recorded this scene at that time, we might have been kept in the dark for the rest of our lives. The hatred of killing one's father is irreconcilable. He knows. We definitely won't let them go. Moreover, during this period of time, we forced him to almost self-destruct. Later, you let us take over the 10th team, and the threat to him is getting greater. Therefore, I expect that he will definitely find a way to get rid of us. Lu Jiajin said calmly. He had prepared these words in advance. This was because he knew that someone would definitely ask. Even so, it doesn't seem to have anything to do with what happened today. After all, the person who lured you to the fiery mountain today was Dong Cha, not Dong Qingyun himself. The Moon Fairy Princess was suspicious. No, it's precisely because it's Dong Cha that I can easily tell that this is a conspiracy. Lu Jiajin shook his head. What do you mean? The Moon Fairy Princess was full of curiosity. First, some time ago, we brothers went to look for him, hoping that the experts with Will of Heaven from his clan could join our 10th team. However, at that time, he didn't agree no matter what. But not long ago, he suddenly sent a message to Dong Yuming, saying that he changed his mind and asked us to meet him. Isn't this very strange? Because everyone is well aware that the reason Dong Cha refused us was because Dong Qingyuan had given him a heads up. Isn't he afraid of Dong Qingyuan's revenge? Of course he's afraid. After all, he's only the patriarch of a direct family, and Dong Qingyuan is the commander of the Death God army. I'm afraid that he wouldn't dare to betray Dong Qingyuan even if a knife was held to his neck. Moreover, Dong Qingyuan is the teacher of his daughter, Dong Qin. Therefore, when I received Dong Yuming's message, I guess that this matter might not be so simple. It's very likely that Dong Qingyuan is behind Dong Cha's actions. Lu Jiajin spoke slowly and with assurance. He was like a wise man, which was admirable. Chapter 4470. Impressive. The Moon Fairy Princess gave him a thumbs up. She was able to deduce the mastermind behind all of this. Of course, that's one of the reasons. Secondly, when we arrived at the City Lord's mansion and saw Dong Cha, he gave us 2 conditions. Firstly, he asked us to rescue his daughter, Dong Qin. Secondly, he asked the juniors of his clan to become reserve members of our Death God army. At first glance, these 2 conditions don't seem to have any problems. But if you think about it carefully, they're actually full of loopholes. Lu Jiajin smiled faintly. Loopholes? The Moon Fairy Princess was stunned. What loopholes could there be? It was normal. After all, Lu Yunfeng and his brother were the commanders of the 10th Squad. It wasn't a problem to ask them to rescue Dong Qin and let the juniors of their clan become reserve members of the Death God army. Your Highness, I'm sure you're thinking that the conditions he proposed are all reasonable. After all, we brothers do indeed have the ability to help him. But think about his relationship with Dong Qing. His daughter is Dong Qingyuan's teacher. With this relationship, if he wants the juniors of his clan to become reserve members of the Death God army, he can just go to Dong Qingyuan. As the commander of the Death God army, Dong Qingyuan's status and power are above us. Why would Dong Cha go to us for help? A slightly normal person would also go to Dong Qingyuan directly. Lu Jiajin smiled. The Moon Fairy Princess was stunned. Lu Jiajin's words really didn't seem to make sense. As for asking us to rescue Dong Qin, Dong Cha might think it's a reasonable excuse, but in my opinion, it's a joke. Because we're all members of the Central Dynasty. Even if he doesn't ask, we'll still do our best to rescue her. Now that he's said it, isn't it like drawing legs on a snake? What's even more ridiculous is that he's using the hiding place of Qin Feiyang and the others as a condition of exchange. If he really knows where Qin Feiyang and the others are hiding, he would have reported it to the emperor as soon as possible. After all, this is a great merit. A slightly normal person wouldn't let go of such an opportunity. You said he's a fool? If he was really stupid, how could he become the patriarch of the first direct family? Lu Jiajin smiled. Dong Cha said in a low voice, but I clearly said at that time that I wanted to give this opportunity to you. Yes, you did say that, but do you think I'll believe you? If we really want to rescue your daughter, do you think we have a higher chance of success? Or do you think we have a higher chance of success if we report to the Emperor and get the entire Death God army to rescue your daughter? I'm afraid even an idiot can think of that. Or could it be that in your eyes, we brothers are even worse than fools? Otherwise, why would you try to trick us like this? Lu Jiajin sneered. When Dong Cha finished hearing these words, he could not help collapsing onto the ground. The reason and excuse that he thought was flawless was unexpectedly full of loopholes in front of this person. Lu Jiajin raised his head to look at the Emperor and said with a smile, all in all, I can conclude that this may be a conspiracy. The final outcome is not disappointing. The Emperor took a deep breath. This young man was indeed a talented general. This terrifying insight and astonishing judgment simply made people tremble in fear. Talent, really a talent. But Dong Qingyuan and these bastards almost made him lose this talent. How should you be punished? The Emperor shouted angrily. Your Majesty, this was Dong Cha's idea. We were all instigated by him. Your Majesty, please investigate clearly. The group of people suddenly trembled and crawled on the ground, trembling. Your Majesty, they are slandering us. Your Majesty, please investigate clearly. Dong Cha also hurriedly shouted. He could not become a scapegoat, because once he became a scapegoat, he would be in a situation where he would die. At most, he would be an accomplice. Glancing at the group of people, the Emperor fell into silence, and the hall became dead silent. No one knew how long had passed. Men, suddenly, the Emperor said. In an instant, Dong Cha, Dong Hanzong, Dong Qingyuan, and the 9 commanders' hearts were in their throats. How would the Emperor rule? As the door opened, the 2 middle-aged men outside strode in and knelt on one knee. The head of the first direct family, Dong Cha, instigated Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, and the 9 commanders to murder Lu Yunfeng and his brother. His crime is punishable by death. 3 days later, bring him to the punishment platform and behead him in public as a warning to others. This order immediately aroused the dissatisfaction of the inner demons. He suddenly stood up, his face full of anger. Dong Qingyuan and the others were the masterminds. Why did they push all the blame to Dong Cha? But before the inner demons could speak, Lu Jiajin grabbed his hand and pulled him back. What are you doing? The inner demons raised his eyebrows. Don't be too agitated. It's an expected outcome. Lu Jiajin transmitted his voice. The Emperor looked at the inner demons and asked, Lu Yuntian, you stood up. Do you have any objections to my ruling? Of course we have no objections to your Majesty's ruling. The inner demons didn't speak. Lu Jiajin smiled faintly. There was one more thing he didn't say. You are the Emperor of the Central Dynasty, the son of the ruler of the Divine Kingdom. Who dares to object to your ruling? But the inner demons were not convinced. It wasn't easy to seize this opportunity, but in the end, Dong Cha became the scapegoat. He looked at Dong Cha again. His whole body was paralyzed on the ground in despair. He wanted to continue to redress the injustice and explain. But he also knew that the Emperor was deliberately favoring Dong Qingyuan and the others. Because, whether it was Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, or the 9 commanders, they were all more valuable than him, the head of the direct family. To put it bluntly, the Emperor was abandoning the rook to save the king. He was undoubtedly the rook that was abandoned. Your Majesty is wise. Dong Qingyuan and the others were wild with joy and repeatedly thanked the Emperor. As expected, the Emperor was still on their side. But the 2 middle-aged men were a little confused. Dong Cha instigated Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, and the 9 commanders to murder Lu Yunfeng and his brother? What kind of joke was this? Dong Cha was just the head of a direct family. How could he instigate these 11 people? What was going on? The Emperor continued, as for Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, and the 9 commanders, as accomplices to the murder of Lu Yunfeng and his brother, they can be exempted from death, but they can't escape punishment. We are willing to be punished. The 11 people knelt in unison. The Emperor was already protecting them, so of course they had to be tactful. Dong Qingyuan, You are punished to hand over your origin energy and go to the punishment platform to repent and apologize to Lu Yunfeng and his brother in public. Dong Hanzong, you are stripped of your title as a peerless genius and also go to the punishment platform to apologize to Lu Yunfeng and his brother in public. The 9 commanders will retain their positions as commanders, but their real power will be taken over by Princess Yuxian. You are punished to go back and reflect on your mistakes for 3 years. After 3 years, if your performance is good, your real power will be returned to you. Similarly, before you reflect on your mistakes, you will also go to the punishment platform to apologize to Lu Yunfeng and his brother in public. The emperor said, "Thank you, Your Majesty, for your mercy. We will remember this lesson. In the future, we will always maintain a calm mind and not be bewitched by evil people." The 11 people knelt on the ground and thanked the emperor. They were secretly delighted. Lu Yunfeng, Lu Yuntian, did you see that? Even if the emperor knows the truth, he will not kill us because we are the emperor's clansmen, and you are just outsiders. Preposterous. Preposterous. The inner demons were mad and furious. The emperor's favoritism towards these people was really blatant. He did not hide it at all. Lu Jiajin's expression was very calm. It was as if no matter what happened, it would not affect his state of mind. Above, Princess Yuxian could not help but sigh when she saw her father's attitude. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Dong Cha did not have the ability to do so, but there was no other way. Who asked him to be the least valuable? They could only sacrifice him to protect those who were more valuable. Although it was a little cruel, they had to make a choice at this time. Take Dong Cha away. The emperor waved his hand. Yes. 2 middle-aged men stood up and supported Dong Cha, who was paralyzed on the ground with an ashen face, then turned and strode away. I don't want to see this kind of thing happen again. The emperor looked at Dong Qingyuan and the others and said, "Yes." The group of people bowed and replied. Then, the emperor stood up, glanced at the inner demons and Lu Jiajin, then stepped out and disappeared outside the door. Phew! Dong Qingyuan and the others finally heaved a sigh of relief. Dong Hanzong turned his head and looked at the 2 people in his heart. His eyes were full of pride, and he said with a smile, "Both of you, are you satisfied with this result?" The inner demon's bad temper was about to explode on the spot, but Lu Jiajin stopped him. "But don't worry, 3 days later, we will definitely go to the punishment platform as scheduled and apologize to you in public. At that time, I hope both of you can be magnanimous and forgive us." Dong Hanzong chuckled. "As long as you're happy." Lu Jiajin smiled, as if nothing had happened. Trying to use this to anger him? How could that be possible? Haha! Dong Hanzong laughed and ignored the 2 people. He raised his head and looked at the Moon Fairy Princess, who was standing on the platform. He cupped his hands and said, "Your Highness, a few days ago, I found a place with great scenery. I wonder if I can have the honor of inviting Your Highness to go sightseeing with us." Get lost. But what he got in response was just a simple word. Dong Hanzong's smile froze. He suppressed the anger in his heart and said with a smile, "It's okay. I'll invite Your Highness again when she's free." After that, he turned around and left with a gloomy face. Dong Qingyuan and the 9 great commanders looked at the 2 inner demons with a sneer, then turned around and left. Their proud attitude almost made the inner demons go berserk. In the main hall, at this moment, only the inner demons, Lu Jiajin, and the Moon Fairy Princess were left. The Moon Fairy Princess walked down and asked, "Do you hate my father very much now?" "Nonsense. Can't you see with such big eyes?" The inner demon said angrily, "I'm in a bad mood now, so you better not provoke me. Otherwise, even if you're the emperor's beloved daughter, I'll still beat you up." The Moon Fairy Princess stared at the inner demons angrily. End of chapter. Chapter 4471. What's wrong? I'm not happy. Can't I throw a tantrum? What a joke. The emperor of the Central Dynasty is actually so unreasonable. I don't want to be the commander anymore. You can find whoever you want. After saying that, the inner demons quietly put away the divine voice transmission stone in his hand, opened a space-time tunnel, and left without looking back. Dong Qingyuan was punished to hand over his origin energy. Dong Hanzong was punished to lose his title as a peerless genius. The 9 commanders were punished to reflect on their mistakes and temporarily hand over their real power for 3 years. What kind of punishment was this? It was not a big deal at all. As for going to the punishment platform and apologizing in front of everyone, it was a joke. Just thinking about it made him angry. In such a situation, even if he was biased, he should have removed Dong Qingyuan from his position as the commander of the 9 commanders. He should not have been too biased. Why is this guy like this? In such a situation, he must be protecting the more valuable people. The Moon Fairy Princess glared at the inner demon's back that was about to disappear. Protecting the more valuable people, Lu Jiajin murmured and shook his head. So that's what your highness thinks. I've learned my lesson. I won't disturb your highness anymore. I'll take my leave. After he finished speaking, he did not pay any attention to the Moon Fairy Princess, who had an ugly expression on her face. He opened a space-time tunnel and left without looking back. Why are they all like this? I know you've been wronged, but you're all men. Can't you be more magnanimous? The Moon Fairy Princess stomped her feet in anger. Instead, she seemed to be the one who had been wronged. Clang! Soon, the loud sound of a bell pierced through the clouds and reverberated in the sky of the Central Dynasty for a long time. The sound of the bell shocked almost all living beings. This bell, it sounds like the punishment platform. The sky bell? Once the sky bell rings, someone will go to the punishment platform. It means that as long as the sky bell rings, someone will go to the punishment platform. The last time the sky bell rang was a few million years ago to kill an unpardonable villain. Who will be executed this time? I haven't heard of any villains over the years. Could it be Qin Feiyang, Madman Emo, Golden-Winged Wolf King, and Sea Lion Demon King? The Death God Army has captured them alive and is preparing to behead them in 3 days? Let's go take a look. For a time, the various cities were abuzz with discussion. Countless living beings rushed toward the punishment platform. The punishment platform was located at the peak of a mountain called the Devil's Peak. It was located between the 10 great direct descendant clans, and it was specially used to execute those who were wicked beyond redemption. Most people wouldn't even have the chance to step onto the punishment platform. 3 days passed quickly. The Devil Peak was surrounded by majestic mountains, lush greenery, and ferocious beasts. However, the Devil Mountain was the most peculiar of all. The Devil Mountain was located in the center of the mountain range. The mountain was very majestic, and there were a few holes on it. From afar, it looked like a huge skull. Therefore, it was named Devil Peak. On the mountain peak, as if it had been cut by an axe, the ground was covered with ancient stone bricks. Some parts of the bricks were dark red and filled with the smell of blood. This was the result of countless beheadings. Blood splattered everywhere and dyed the stone bricks dark red. In the center of the mountain peak, there was a stone platform that was tens of meters tall. It was cylindrical, and there was something similar to a threshold above it. In the middle of it, there was a guillotine. This guillotine was used for beheading. Its entire body was dark red, and it was unknown how many living beings it had beheaded. It was full of killing intent. At this moment, countless figures gathered in the void. There were humans, ferocious beasts, and even sea beasts that came from afar. Everyone was looking at the peak of the Devil Mountain as they discussed among themselves, causing the place to be extremely noisy. I dare to bet the target of beheading must be one of Qin Feiyang's group. I think so too, because only they are worthy of being beheaded at the punishment platform. Wang. Noon. A space-time tunnel appeared on the mountain peak. In an instant, the eyes of all living beings were locked on the space-time tunnel. Figures appeared one after another. The ones in the lead were Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, and the 9 commanders. Did you see that? Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, and the 9 commanders of the Death God Army have all come to the punishment platform. With such a big formation, they must be here to behead Qin Feiyang's group. Finally, we can get rid of these scourges. Our central dynasty can finally restore peace. Someone chuckled. However, just as everyone was excited, 2 middle-aged men in purple gold divine armor suddenly carried Dong Cha, who was in a sorry state and whose eyes were empty, out of the space-time tunnel. What's the situation? Why isn't it Qin Feiyang's group? This person is. I know him. He's the patriarch of the number 1 direct family, the father of one of the 5 great geniuses, Dong Qin, Dong Cha. Dong Cha? How could it be him? Look at his lifeless appearance. Could it be that he is going to be beheaded? This can't be right. How could he be beheaded? Everyone's face was filled with disbelief. Head of the family. There were people from the first direct family in the crowd. They clenched their hands tightly, their eyes full of anger. There were many insiders in the first direct family, such as the experts of the will of heaven. Before Dong Cha took action, he had reported to them. So, they knew all the truth. They also knew that the emperor was going to abandon the head of the family to protect Dong Qingyuan and the others. However, even if they knew the truth, they wouldn't dare to do anything, because this was the emperor's order. If they dared to act rashly and announce the truth to the world, the emperor would definitely not let them off easily. Because the support of their family, the peerless genius Dong Qin, had now fallen into the hands of Qin Feiyang and had no right to speak. Soon, the 2 middle-aged men then escorted Dong Ping onto the stone platform. Dong Cha's cultivation had been destroyed, and he was restrained by the pressure. Standing under the guillotine, he looked at the creatures around him with empty eyes, full of sadness. If he had known this would happen, why did he do it? In the past 3 days, the 2 men had already understood the situation clearly. They stood on the platform and announced Dong Cha's crimes loudly. What? Dong Cha is so bold that he actually instigated Dong Hanzong, Dong Qingyuan, and the 9 great commanders to murder Lu Yunfeng and his brother? This is impossible. He's just the head of a direct family. Where did he get such courage from? Is there something else behind this? When everyone heard this, they were all surprised. Although the 2 men said it methodically, it was still hard to believe. Kill. A moment later, after announcing Dong Cha's crimes, the 2 men roared, and the guillotine hanging in the air suddenly fell. I can't accept this, daughter. If you're still alive, if you can hear me, you must remember to kill Dong Hanzong, Dong Qingyuan, and the 9 great commanders to avenge your father. Seeing the guillotine fall, Dong Cha suddenly roared to the sky, telling the injustice and anger in his heart. Boom! Before he finished speaking, the guillotine fell, erupting with a destructive power. Dong Cha screamed and died on the spot. His blood dyed the surroundings red. Head of the family, the clansmen hiding in the crowd cried out sorrowfully in their hearts. After hearing Dong Cha's roar before his death, everyone was even more convinced that there was something else behind this. Dong Cha instigated Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, and the 9 great commanders. No matter how they looked at it, it didn't make sense. Wait, could it be? Some people seem to have thought of something. They looked at Dong Qingyuan and the others standing on the mountain peak, their eyes full of shock. This Dong Cha should be the scapegoat. However, even if someone figured this out, they would at most show sympathy and not dare to say it out loud. This was because they all knew that the person behind this was the emperor. In the face of the emperor's judgment, even if they were wronged, no one dared to say anything. It's our turn. Dong Hanzong smiled. But I don't seem to see them. Dong Yuerong scanned the sea of people around her. Indeed, she didn't see the inner demons. Maybe they're very angry with this result, so they didn't come. Dong Kuan laughed mockingly. Dong Qingyuan laughed secretly. Whether they come or not, we have to put on a show to prove that we've really turned over a new leaf. Immediately, the group of people then pretended to repent and apologize. He displayed his hypocritical side to the fullest. At the same time, not far away, on a mountain peak, 2 figures stood silently in the crowd. Their auras were completely absent, and their faces were extremely unfamiliar. Have you recorded everything? One of them transmitted his voice. Yes. The other person nodded. There was a transmission stone in his hand. Then let's go. Find a place and send the 2 videos to my little cousin. That's right. The 2 of them were really the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. After Lu Jiajin finished speaking, he turned around and left quickly. You guys can be proud for now. Soon, you will experience how terrible a woman's anger will be. The inner demons laughed and also turned around and left. Not long after, Black Tortoise Realm, Qin Feiyang, the madman, the white-eyed wolf, and Longqin gathered in the tea garden. In the void in front of them, there was an image displayed. It was the image of Dong Hanzong and a group of people trapping Dong Cha in the imperial palace. The four of them were fascinated by it. They really didn't expect that during this period of time, such a big thing had happened outside. In the end, when they saw the image of Dong Cha being beheaded, Qin Feiyang picked up the teacup, took a sip of tea, and looked at the madman and the other two with a smile. Do you know the purpose of the inner demons and big cousin sending these two videos to us? Do you still need to think about it? They definitely want us to enjoy a good show. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Idiot. Longqin despised him. You. The white-eyed wolf was about to fly into a rage, but suddenly he seemed to think of something. He fell silent again and drank by himself. Since he said not to bicker with this woman, then he had to do it. Longqin looked at the silent white-eyed wolf, and there was a trace of disappointment in his heart. You really don't understand the meaning of the inner demons and big cousin. Qin Feiyang looked at the white-eyed wolf and smiled slightly. Then what does it mean? The white-eyed wolf was suspicious. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and he smiled faintly. The inner demons and big cousin want us to show these two videos to Dongqin. Think about it. When Dongqin sees these videos, especially when she hears the roar before Dong Cha's death, what choice will Dongqin make? The white-eyed wolf lowered his head and tormented for a while, and his eyes suddenly lit up. I see. It seems that we are about to have a powerful partner. That's right. Dongqin has mastered the great heaven domain. She doesn't need to comprehend the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death to have two wills of the heavenly Tao. For us, she is indeed a very powerful partner. Qin Feiyang laughed, got up and looked at the three. Let's go to the soul-sealing valley to welcome our new partner. Chapter 4472. Soul-sealing valley. It was as stinky as ever. Dongqin was suppressed in the soul-sealing valley. She had long lost her vitality and was like a walking corpse. Even when Qin Feiyang and the other three arrived, she acted as if she didn't see them. So pitiful. A lifetime of happiness, the wrong person. Longqin shook his head and sighed. Qin Feiyang looked at Dongqin for a moment, and with a wave of his hand, the power of law suppressing Dongqin disappeared. Dongqin finally reacted. But the next moment, she was ready to destroy her divine soul. She had had enough of this torturous life. She might as well choose death. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, You have to think carefully. If you choose death now, then no one will avenge your father. Dongqin was slightly taken aback. She looked up at Qin Feiyang and asked, What do you mean? I mean, your father has already died an unnatural death. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, Impossible. My father is the patriarch of the first direct family. Even if his strength is not much, there are still many powerhouses in the family with the will of heaven. Moreover, Brother Hanzong is also taking care of him for me. How could he die an unnatural death? Dongqin shook her head. It must be Qin Feiyang and the others lying to her. They wanted to destroy her will and make her betray the central dynasty and the divine kingdom. Dong Hanzong will take care of him for you? Aren't you too naive? White-eyed wolf sneered. You are not allowed to slander Brother Hanzong. Dongqin said angrily. Sure enough, a pitiful person must have something hateful. This saying is not false at all. Lunatic shook his head. This woman was like a demon, unreasonable. If it weren't for the fact that she had the great heaven domain, they wouldn't have bothered to waste this effort. Qin Feiyang turned to look at Longqin and said with a smile, Little Qin, take her to clean up first. After cleaning, bring her to the tea garden. It was definitely not convenient for the few of them to do this kind of thing. Okay, Longqin nodded. Holding his breath, he led Dongqin out of Soul-Sealing Valley. Qin Feiyang scanned the Soul-Sealing Valley and said jokingly, I really hope that Dong Qingyuan, the Kuan Pong, the Dragon God, the Emperor, and the ruler of the Divine Kingdom can also experience the taste of the Soul-Sealing Valley. There will be a chance. The white-eyed wolf and madman bared their teeth. Whoosh! The three returned to the Devil's Land. What does Longqin mean? Ever since I grasped the will of the heavenly Tao, I have been sitting cross-legged in the sky. The white-eyed wolf looked up at Long Chun, his eyes full of suspicion. It could be said that he was fusing with the inheritance, but he didn't take it out. It could be said that he was cultivating, but at this stage, other than fusing with the inheritance, what else could he cultivate? Who knows? However, I have a premonition that when Long Chun comes out of seclusion, his strength may increase greatly. Madman whispered. Although the current Long Chun's aura was ethereal and there was no sense of crisis on the surface, every time he saw Long Chun, he couldn't help but feel a sense of horror in his heart. It was like a sleeping beast. Time passed bit by bit. About half an hour later, a source of power descended and disappeared in a certain place of the Black Tortoise world. What's the situation? Why is there a source of power descending? Madman was shocked. Qin Feiyong was also surprised. The source of the Black Tortoise world could only be controlled by that brat. He hurriedly closed his eyes and released his perception. But soon, the corner of his mouth twitched as he hurriedly withdrew his perception with an extremely awkward expression. What's wrong? Madman and the white-eyed wolf looked at him in confusion. Cough, cough. Qin Feiyong coughed dryly, poured a cup of tea, and said with a smile, maybe Dong Qin has been suppressed in the soul-sealing valley for too long and couldn't get rid of the stench on her body. So Long Qin summoned that brat and used his source of power to purify the stench on her body. The madman and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other. This was too extravagant. He actually used the source of power to purify the stench on Dong Qin's body. Madman rolled his eyes and joked, look at your awkward expression. Did you see Dong Qin naked? Cough. Qin Feiyong lowered his head to hide the awkwardness in his expression. As the ruler of the Black Tortoise world, it's really great. You can see whatever you want, and the key is that others don't know. Tell me honestly, do you often hide in the castle and peek at women bathing? Madman smiled evilly. Qin Feiyong's mouth twitched. Was he such a person? This was purely an accident. Another moment passed. As a space-time passage opened, two beautiful figures walked out. It was Long Qin and Dong Qin. Needless to say, this Dong Qin had an exquisite figure that could captivate fish and beasts. Now that she had changed into a clean snow-white dress, she was indeed somewhat beautiful. Sit. Qin Feiyong pointed to the stone bench opposite him. Dong Qin swept her gaze across the Devil's Land. This was the first time she had seriously sized up the Devil's Land. All kinds of medicinal herbs swayed in the wind. The energy of the crystal veins and spirit veins was shockingly rich. The entire land was shrouded in clouds and mist. How did this look like the Devil's Land? It wasn't an exaggeration to call it a paradise. However, the people who lived here were a group of real devils. Sit down and have a cup of tea. We'll show you something. Qin Feiyong said with a smile as he poured a cup of tea and pushed it in front of Dong Qin. Dong Qin sat opposite him. Looking at the teacup, she said with a cold face, don't be wishy-washy, be straightforward. You're still impatient. I advise you to be mentally prepared, because what you're about to see might exceed the limits of what you can bear. Madman laughed. It's not a possibility, it's a certainty. White-eyed wolf added. When Dong Qin heard the words of the two, she couldn't help but be shocked. What was the next thing she was going to see? With a bewildered state of mind, she picked up the teacup and took a sip. Then, she closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Looking at Qin Feiyong, she said, let's begin. Qin Feiyong took out the sound transmission godstone. With a wave of his hand, the first video slowly unfolded in the void. Teacher, Emperor, Princess Yuxian, Brother Hanzong, Father. What's going on? This seems to be the Imperial Palace. Why is Father in the Imperial Palace? Dong Qin was suddenly surprised. But the following conversation made her mood fall into a cold abyss step by step. How could this be? How could Father do such a thing? Her heart was filled with disbelief, especially when she saw Dong Hanzong say that Dong Cha was the mastermind and that he had never liked her. It had always been her own wishful thinking. Suddenly, it was like a bolt from the blue, rumbling in her mind. Why, Brother Hanzong? Why are you doing this to me? Was it only my own wishful thinking all this time? Do you have no feelings for me at all? Finally, Following the emperor's verdict, Dong Qin suddenly stood up, her eyes wide with anger. He wanted to behead her father. This is impossible. How could my father have the courage to murder Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian? Moreover, with his status, how could he instigate teacher and the 9 great commanders? Her face was filled with disbelief. Of course it couldn't be your father. Your father is just an accomplice. The real mastermind is Dong Qingyuan. But because the matter was exposed, your father became the scapegoat, Qin Feiyang said indifferently. What about the emperor? Doesn't he know? Dong Qin said angrily. Of course the emperor knows. But in order to protect Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, and the 9 great commanders, he had to sacrifice your father. To put it bluntly, Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, and the 9 great commanders are more valuable than your father. So it's natural that your father became the scapegoat, Qin Feiyang said. Dong Qin clenched her fists tightly. She stared at Qin Feiyang and said anxiously, I have to save my father. I can't watch him be beheaded like this. It's too late. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. With a wave of his hand, the second image appeared. It was the image of Dong Cha being beheaded. Father. Seeing the guillotine falling, Dong Qin fell into a frenzy. Her hands flailed wildly, grabbing at the air as if she was trying to catch the guillotine. But it was useless. She could only watch as the guillotine fell. She could only watch as her father's blood splattered on the spot. I can't accept this, daughter. If you're still alive, if you can hear me, you must remember to kill Dong Hanzong, Dong Qingyuan, and the 9 great commanders to avenge your father. Only this indignant roar was left, echoing in the air for a long time. Father. Dong Qin knelt on the ground in despair, crying weakly. Why did it become like this? Dong Hanzong, I was infatuated with you. Why did you treat me and my father like this? Dong Qingyuan, I treated you as my teacher. Is this how you repay me? Father, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. It's your daughter who killed you. Back then, I should have listened to you and left Dong Hanzong. I should have left that heartless bastard. Father, I'm sorry. She lay on the ground in pain, crying bitterly. Her heart sank into the abyss of self-blame. It was all because of her willfulness and naivety that she allowed Dong Hanzong into her life. Otherwise, why would her father trust Dong Hanzong so much? All of this was caused by her. Sigh. Qin Feiyang and the other 3 could not help but sigh inwardly. Even though this was the second time they had seen these 2 images, they still could not calm down. The 9 great commanders were in the lead. After all, they did not have a deep relationship with Dong Qin. However, Dong Qingyuan and Dong Hanzong, one was Dong Qin's teacher, while the other was the man she was infatuated with. In the end, they both betrayed her and made Dong Qin's biological father their scapegoat. How could they be so selfish and ruthless? Chapter 4473. After a long time, Dong Qin finally calmed down and looked up at Qin Feiyang and the other 3. At this time, the look in Dong Qin's eyes scared Qin Feiyang and the other 3. Her eyes were blood red without any emotion, revealing a terrible ruthlessness and indifference. I want revenge, she said slowly. Her tone was bone-chilling. The 4 looked at each other. It seemed that this change had made Dong Qin completely cut off everything, and only hatred was left in her eyes. Revenge, Qin Feiyang murmured and said with a faint smile. Do you know that the enemies you are facing now are Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, the 9 commanders, and even the emperor? I know. Dong Qin nodded. Qin Feiyang thought, since you know, you should know that with your own strength, you will never be able to avenge your father. I know, but I have to do something. Even if I die, I will never back down. Dong Qin clenched her hands tightly, murderous intent surging from her body. She had never thought that her biological father would be in the hands of her most respected teacher, the man she liked the most. In fact, she had struggled before in her heart. However, Dong Cha's roar before his death had been floating in her mind. If she still couldn't cut off all this until now, how could she face her father who gave birth to her and raised her? If her father knew in the underworld, he would never be able to rest in peace. We can understand that you are eager to take revenge, but don't lose your mind. In fact, you have a better choice. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. What choice? Dong Qin looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang smiled. Join forces with us. We can help you take revenge. Hearing this, Dong Qin fell silent. To tell you the truth, I haven't killed you because I want to have a chance to persuade you to join our big family. Because with you, our strength will be stronger. Unfortunately, after being in the Central Dynasty for so long, we haven't thought of a reason to persuade you. However, who would have thought that Emperor Monarch, Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong and the 9 Grand Commanders would actually present this opportunity to us? You have been in the Black Tortoise realm for so many years. You should understand our character and conduct. Although we are weak, we are loyal. We will never betray or abandon our companions. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Dong Qin looked conflicted. If she cooperated with Qin Feiyang and the others, it would be a declaration that she had completely betrayed the divine kingdom. What's there for you to miss in such a divine kingdom? Also, do you think Dong Hanzong and Dong Qingyuan will let your other family members go so easily? The white-eyed wolf sneered. Dong Qin looked at the white-eyed wolf in shock. Colluding with Dong Qingyuan and the others to murder brother Lu Yunfeng is no small matter. I believe that your father must have asked the elders in your clan. In other words, there are many people in your clan who know the truth of this matter. These people will definitely think of ways to avenge your father. Dong Qingyuan and Dong Hanzong are shrewd people. They must have thought of this as well. Therefore, to prevent future troubles, they will definitely think of ways to deal with your family members. They might even exterminate them. The white-eyed wolf said in a deep voice. Dong Qin couldn't help but tremble when she heard this. If this was really the case, then even if she apologized with her life, she wouldn't be able to ease the pain and guilt in her heart. What should I do? She looked helplessly at Qin Feiyang and the others. The white-eyed wolf said indifferently, You didn't agree to follow us. Why should we help you? We won't help an outsider for no reason. Dong Qin was burning with anxiety. She looked at Qin Feiyang for help, but Qin Feiyang lowered his head and drank his tea. She looked at the madman and Long Qin. Madman also drank without saying a word. Long Qin played with the yin and yang ring on his finger. A moment later, Dong Qin took a deep breath. That's right. Such a central dynasty, such a divine kingdom, there was nothing to miss. Even if the divine kingdom's ruler blamed her, she could still say righteously that she betrayed the divine kingdom because it was forced by his own son, the emperor. Okay, I will cooperate with you. Dong Qin nodded. She finally understood. He straightforwardly made a blood oath. As the oath descended, Qin Feiyang and the others finally looked up with a smile. The madman reached out his hand and bared his teeth. Welcome our new partners. Dong Qin glared at the madman and slapped his hand away. She urged, Help me think of a way to save my family members. This matter is very simple. The madman chuckled. Simple? Dong Qin was stunned. That's right. It can be done in minutes. The madman smiled confidently. Don't keep me in suspense, okay? Tell me quickly. Dong Qin was impatient. If it wasn't for the fact that her Sea of Qi hadn't recovered yet, she really wanted to beat this guy up. The madman asked, Right now, Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, and the 9 commanders, who are they most afraid of? The person they are most afraid of. Dong Qin pondered for a moment and asked, The emperor? How can you be considered the emperor? The emperor is shielding them and favoring them. I'm talking about their opponents. The madman was speechless. Their opponents. Figures kept flashing through Dong Qin's mind. Finally, it stopped at the figures of 2 young men. These 2 young men were Lu Jiajin and the inner demons. That's right. The people they are most afraid of now are Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian. The madman nodded. That's true, but what does this have to do with helping my family members? My father colluded with Dong Qingyuan and the others to plot against them. I'm afraid that these 2 brothers want to take revenge on my family members more than Dong Qingyuan and the others. Dong Qin said, According to common sense, this is indeed the case. Not to mention them, if it were us, if your father dared to plot against us like this, we would also crazily take revenge. But now, All of this can't be treated with common sense. The madman smiled. Can't be treated with common sense? The more Dong Qin listened, the more puzzled she became. The madman turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang. Seeing this, Dong Qin also looked at Qin Feiyang and found that there was a faint smile on Qin Feiyang's face. Looking at the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin, they were the same. At this moment, this group of people all seemed unfathomable. Suddenly, under Dong Qin's puzzled gaze, Qin Feiyang took out the divine sound transmission stone. Buzz. In a short while, the divine sound transmission stone let out a buzz, and in the next moment, two familiar figures appeared. Lu Yunfeng, Lu Yuntian. Dong Qin looked at the two inner demons in shock. What was going on? Why could Qin Feiyang contact these two people? At the same time, the two inner demons looked at Dong Qin, who was standing beside Qin Feiyang and the others, with a smile in their eyes. The inner demons bared their teeth and said, "You dare to send us a message in front of Dong Qin? It seems that you have convinced her." "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. "What's going on? Have you also betrayed the divine kingdom?" Dong Qin was very surprised. Now their attitude, how could they be enemies? They were simply old friends for many years. No, looking at the smiles and eyes on each other, they were more like close relatives. Let me formally introduce. This Lu Yunfeng in your eyes is actually my eldest cousin. His real name is Lu Jiajin, and this Lu Yuntian in your eyes is actually my inner demons. However, although he is an inner demon, he has already passed the tribulation, and now he is a person with an independent character. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. What? Eldest cousin? Inner demons? Dong Qin's eyes were dull. This was completely beyond her imagination. These two powerful people, who were trusted by the emperor, were Qin Feiyang's relatives. If that was the case, wouldn't the owners of the 10 most powerful fighting souls be around Qin Feiyang? Terrifying. Really terrifying. The white-eyed wolf grinned and said, "Now you know why we can do so well even if we enter the central dynasty." Dong Qin glanced at the white-eyed wolf, and then looked at the inner demons and Lu Jiajin again. This terrible fact really made her scalp tingle. If they were just ordinary people, it wouldn't matter. But the key point was, this inner demon and Lu Jiajin were both monstrously talented and powerful people. If nothing went wrong, he would be able to wield great power in the central dynasty in the future and become a supreme overlord. The crazy man smiled and said, "They are now the commander and vice-commander of the 10th Squad of the Death God Army." What? Dong Qin's shock could no longer be described with words. Becoming the commander of the Death God Army was basically standing at the peak of the divine kingdom, and there were only a few people who could suppress them. Therefore, as long as your clansmen agree to join the 10th Squad and become members of the 10th Squad, XINMO and Big Cousin will be able to protect them as their commander and vice-commander. The white-eyed wolf said, Will they agree to help?" Dong Qin looked at Qin Feiyang and the others hesitantly. Lu Jiajin smiled faintly and said, "If you really want to cooperate with us, of course we will help you." "But my father." Dong Qin couldn't believe it. So easy to talk to? This was completely different from the Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian she remembered. A man's death is like a lamp being extinguished. Your father has already received his retribution, and there is no need for us to vent our anger on your people. Let's talk about it later. Now that you've cooperated with us, it's only natural for us to protect your people. However, it is useless for us to agree. First of all, your people must be willing to join our 10th Squad. Otherwise, it will be unjustifiable for us to protect them. Besides, Dong Qingyuan and the others are not stupid. If we help your people for no reason, it will definitely arouse their suspicion. Lu Jiajin smiled faintly. "As long as you agree to help, I will arrange this matter." Dong Qin hurriedly said, "All right, but as soon as possible." Because Dong Hanzong is not a benevolent person. Moreover, this person is very ambitious. He is interested in the Moon Fairy Princess. Lu Jiajin chuckled. Chapter 4474. Is he interested in Princess Moon Fairy? The four of them were stunned. They had seen Princess Moon Fairy in the video. She was indeed a beauty that could topple a country. Moreover, She was the apple of the emperor's eye, the granddaughter of the ruler of the divine kingdom. She had a noble identity and an extraordinary status. If he could marry her, even if he was a nobody, he would be able to achieve meteoric success in an instant. At the same time, hearing Lu Jiajin's words, Dongqing's eyes trembled slightly, and her face turned pale. Yes, we saw it with our own eyes. He even wanted to invite Princess Moon Fairy to play in front of us, but Princess Moon Fairy looked down on him and coldly told him to scram. The inner demons laughed. Haha, it would appear that this moon immortal princess is a rather intelligent woman. The mad demon laughed. Dongqing's body trembled, and she muttered, "Does he mean that I'm not smart enough?" Indeed, the mad demon could not be blamed for laughing at her. She was indeed not smart enough, because if she was smarter, she would not have been deceived by Dong Hanzong's flowery words. The reason Dong Hanzong was with her was that he wanted to use the power of her family to reach a higher level. In other words, he was just using her. Once she lost her value, Dong Hanzong would heartlessly abandon her and run to find the next target that could help him to fulfill his ambition step by step. Why was she so stupid in the past? Why did he have to wait until now to be enlightened? If she had realized it earlier, perhaps her father would not have suffered such a calamity. Your father's death really has nothing to do with you. This is the fault of his own making. Qin Feiyang saw the self-blame in Dongqing's heart and comforted her. It has something to do with it. This is my fault. Because of my feelings for Dong Hanzong and my respect for Dongqing Yuan, my father trusted them so much. Otherwise, he would have definitely kept a distance from Dong Hanzong and Dongqing. Today's incident would not have happened. Dongqing shook her head. Do as you wish. Qin Feiyang could not persuade her anymore. Because human nature was like this, once they fell into this state, no one could persuade them. Arrange it as soon as possible. Lu Jiajin looked at Dongqing and said. He then looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, Little cousin, Dong Tianqin, Dong Ping, and Dong Xian, what do you plan to do with them? I still don't know their attitude. Wait for me to come out of seclusion and meet them before making a decision, Qin Feiyang said after thinking for a while. All right. Lu Jiajin nodded. The inner demon snickered. If you change your mind, let us know in advance. We will be responsible for eliminating them. With our current status, eliminating the three of them is as easy as flipping our hands. All right. Qin Feiyang believed in this. Not to mention the current status of the inner demons, just based on their strength and methods, it would be easy for them to get rid of the three of them. One more thing. Back then, I promised them that I would not harm their families for the time being. Thus, you all should not target their families for now. Qin Feiyang said. All right. Lu Jiajin and the inner demons nodded and then turned off the sound transmission stone. Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and looked at Dongqing. He asked with a smile, Do you need our help? Dongqing let out a long breath and calmed her emotions. She shook her head and said, Not for the time being. All right. When you encounter something that you can't solve, you can send us a message. Qin Feiyang smiled and established a contract bridge with Dongqing. Back then, they captured Dongqing at Mount Supreme, so Dongqing's sound transmission stone was not destroyed. After Dongqing repaired her qi, Qin Feiyang said a few words and then sent her out of the Black Tortoise realm. You seem to be, seeing a woman suddenly appear, the Sea Lion King, who was sitting cross-legged in the hall outside, immediately looked at Dongqing in surprise. Isn't this one of the 5 unparalleled geniuses, Dongqing? You are the Sea Lion King? Dongqing also looked at the Sea Lion King. Yes. The Sea Lion King nodded. Dongqing said, Qin Feiyang told me before that if I need any help in the future, I can ask you for help. Let's establish a contract bridge. Boss Qin? The Sea Lion King was stunned and said in surprise, Could it be that you, yes? Dongqing nodded and looked at the tip of the iceberg outside through the crack of the door. She said with emotion, Just like you. Now we are companions. Damn. The Sea Lion King was secretly speechless. This big brother Qin's methods were indeed impressive. He could even subdue one of the 5 unparalleled geniuses, Dongqing. Wait. Not long ago, a guard came to report that Dong Cha was beheaded. Could Dongqin's betrayal of the divine kingdom be related to Dongcha's death? The Sea Lion King asked, Did Boschin and the others already know that your father was beheaded? Yes. Dongqin nodded. So well informed? I also wanted to find a time to tell them. The Sea Lion King was surprised. With those two here, do you still need to tell them? Dongqin shook her head. The inner demons and Lu Jiajin were the best spies. Those two? The Sea Lion King was stunned. You still don't know? Dongqin was surprised. She thought that the Sea Lion King had followed Qin Feiyang and the others for so long that he already knew the true identity of Lu Yunfeng and Dongqin. What do I know? Could it be that you are still hiding something from us? The Sea Lion King looked confused. Nothing. Dongqin waved her hand and urged, Hurry up and establish a contract bridge with me. I heard that you went to the 4 great continents, it seems. Speaking of this, Ji Xiaowu's pupils suddenly shrank and he said in surprise, Could it be that Qin Dage let you go? Qin Dage? You are from the Central Dynasty and you actually recognize Qin Feiyang as your big brother? Aren't you afraid of being found out and losing your life? Dongqin frowned. This, Lord Goddess, you must keep it a secret for me. Ji Xiaowu suddenly panicked. Why was he so stupid? How could he say such words out loud? Dongqin couldn't help but laugh, and her mood seemed to be a lot better. She said, Don't worry, we are on the same side now. Are there any members of the Death God army hiding in Green Wind City? We are on the same side. Ji Xiaowu's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that this goddess had also joined Qin Dage. Yes, there are a total of 2 dark guards. They have been hiding in the city and the entire city has been sealed by a barrier. Now even the space-time tunnel can't teleport out. Ji Xiaowu said truthfully. So troublesome? Dongqin raised her eyebrows. If she had a real identity, it would be easy for her to leave the city. But the key was that she couldn't use her real identity now, because everyone in the Death God army knew that she had fallen into Qin Feiyang's hands. Now that she appeared out of nowhere in Green Wind City, it would definitely cause a lot of suspicion. For example, how did she escape from Qin Feiyang's hands? Just this one question alone was not something she could answer, because those who fell into Qin Feiyang's hands were imprisoned in the Black Tortoise world. Unless they had Qin Feiyang's permission, no one could escape from the Black Tortoise world. Goddess, are you planning to leave Green Wind City? Ji Xiaowu asked cautiously, and Dongqin nodded and said, Don't call me goddess, just call me by my name. Hearing the title goddess, not only did she not feel happy or proud, she even felt that it was a kind of irony. How can this be? It must be a goddess. Ji Xiaowu quickly shook his head, because to an ordinary young man like him, a proud daughter of the heavens like Dongqin was a goddess-like figure. Do as you wish. Dongqin smiled bitterly. Goddess, it's very simple if you want to leave Green Wind City. Although the Death God army has sealed off our Green Wind City, the guards at the city gates are our people. How about this? I'll give you a consecration token. When the time comes, as long as you show them the consecration token, they will know that you're one of them and will not interrogate you. Ji Xiaowu smiled. Okay, thanks. Dongqin was overjoyed. This little guy is quite capable. He became the city lord of Green Wind City at such a young age and won the hearts of the people. Whether it was the guards or the maids, they were all loyal to him. Just this point alone was something that many city lords of the older generation could not compare to. Seeing Dongqin's joyful smile and even thanking him, Ji Xiaowu suddenly felt flattered. He immediately took out a consecration token and handed it to Dongqin. Dongqin took it and asked, Why are you here? It's nothing big, just that when I was comprehending the laws, I encountered something that I didn't understand. So I wanted to find the Archfiend King and ask him for guidance. Ji Xiaowu scratched his head and smiled embarrassedly. So it's like that. Dongqin nodded in understanding. She smiled and said, In that case, go on. Qin Feiyang told me about your situation as well. Thank you for your encouragement, goddess. I will definitely work hard. With the encouragement of the goddess, Ji Xiaowu was even more motivated and immediately ran to the Sea Lion Archfiend King's courtyard. Silly but quite cute. Dongqin shook her head and smiled. After a conversation, her mood was indeed much better. Then, she took an illusory form pill and turned into a middle-aged woman. She took the consecration token and left the city lord's mansion. As expected, when she walked to the city gate and showed the consecration token, the guards did not say anything and directly let her go. These guards were also Ji Xiaowu's trusted subordinates. Even if the Death God army stood in front of them, they would not hesitate to choose to defend Ji Xiaowu's dignity. Chapter 4475. Flying Dragon City. This was a city that was second only to the 10 main families. This was because this was the territory of the first main family. Dong Cha's death caused the entire family to suffer greatly. Moreover, because of Dong Cha's crime, everyone in the family was wronged and humiliated. This was because some people who did not know the truth were cursing them behind their backs, saying that they were the scum of the Central Dynasty. Not only were they wronged, but they also had to bear such a bad name. Therefore, everyone in the family was particularly angry, especially the group of old antiques in the family who had the will of the heavenly path. Their hearts were filled with hatred. However, in the face of the emperor, Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, and the 9 commanders, they dared not speak out. They could only silently endure this grievance. Hurry up, don't dawdle. At the city gate, the 4 guards were also full of hostility, urging the people in line to be checked. First, the pillar of the family, the eldest daughter, was captured in the 4 great continents. Now, the family leader was wronged and died, so they were in a bad mood. Why are you so fierce? You inhumane scum. If I didn't have something to do in Flying Dragon City, I wouldn't have come even if you paid me to come. That's right. The dignified first main family instigated others to murder the commanders of the Death God army. Aren't you crazy? Right now, I can't help but wonder if you've already joined Qin Feiyang and become his spies. Everyone stared at the 4 guards angrily, their eyes full of contempt. Bastard! Who are you calling crazy? Who are you calling a spy? Say it again. The 4 guards were seething with anger. At first, they were just insulting them, but now, they were saying that they were spies? This was getting worse and worse. So what if we are talking about you? If you are not spies, why did you plot against Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian? They are the pillars of the Central Dynasty and the commanders of the Death God army. If they really die in your hands this time, it will be a great loss for the Central Dynasty. Think about it. What kind of behavior is this? We suspect that you are spies. What's wrong with that? People sneered. Preposterous. If you don't want to come to my Flying Dragon City, then scram. The 4 guards roared. At this moment, at the back of the crowd, a middle-aged woman was silently watching this scene. She clenched her fists tightly, her eyes burning with rage. Not only had his father died an unjust death, even his entire clan had to bear this groundless accusation. Everyone had become the target of scorn, hated by everyone. Her heart was filled with hatred. Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, 9 great commanders, just you wait. Sooner or later, I will make you pay for this. That was right. This person was Dong Qin. Seeing her clansmen being humiliated, her heart almost collapsed. But now, she had to endure. Lack of forbearance in small matters would spoil great plans. She took a deep breath and calmed the anger in her heart. Then, she turned around and left, preparing to send a message to her relatives in the Flying Dragon City. If she entered the city like this, it might be risky, because in her opinion, the guards guarding the city were not very trustworthy. Although at this moment, the 4 guards all had faces filled with righteous indignation, who knew if they were faking it or not. It was possible. They had already been bribed by Dong Hanzong, Dong Qingyuan, and the others. In short, in the current situation, she could not be the slightest bit careless. She had to take every step carefully. Whoosh! But at this moment, in the distance, an aura came. If it was just an ordinary aura, Dong Qin would definitely not care. But this aura was very familiar. Dong Qin turned her head to look, and a trace of joy immediately crept into her eyes. She hurriedly rose into the air and rushed towards that figure like lightning. In the sky above a mountain outside the city, the two met. This was also a middle-aged woman wearing a plain long dress. There were wisps of white hair at her temples, and she looked slightly weathered. Moreover, there was an unconcealable worry on her face. "You are?" The plain-clothed woman looked at the person in front of her, and a trace of anger flashed in her eyes. Now, anyone dared to ride on their heads and behave atrociously? She thought that this strange woman in front of her was here to find trouble with her. "Mother, it's me." Dong Qin transmitted her voice. "And?" The plain-clothed woman was shocked. She looked at the person in front of her with a face full of disbelief. That was her daughter's voice. But wasn't her daughter in the 4 great continents Qin Feiyang's captive? "Mother, it's really me. I'm back." Dong Qin thought to herself. Tears of self-blame and sadness flowed from her eyes. This was because she clearly remembered that when she left the Central Dynasty, her mother did not have white hair at all. But now, the mother standing in front of her not only had white hair, but she also looked extremely haggard. Compared to the graceful and radiant mother of the past, she seemed to have aged more than 10 years. "Qin the plain-clothed woman's eyes trembled, and 2 lines of tears flowed down uncontrollably. Dong Qin tried hard to control her emotions. She looked at the plain-clothed woman and said, "There are too many people. Let's go to your spatial divine item to talk." "Okay." The plain-clothed woman nodded and pulled Dong Qin into a stone room instantly. In the stone room, apart from a praying mat used for cultivation, there was nothing else in the room. Dong Qin was not unfamiliar with this spatial divine item at all, because she had been here countless times. "Is it really you? Qin The plain-clothed woman still could not believe it. "It's me." Dong Qin nodded and took out a facial restoration elixir. She placed it in her mouth and gradually regained her true appearance under the nervous and expectant gaze of the plain-clothed woman. "It's really you, my child. You're finally back." The plain-clothed woman looked at Dong Qin, who had regained her true appearance, and her emotions poured out like a flood. She hugged Dong Qin in her arms and tears fell like rain. "Mother," Dong Qin cried bitterly as well. Although her father had met with misfortune, it was fortunate that her mother was still alive. The mother and daughter hugged each other for a long time, as if they were afraid that the other party would disappear before their eyes if they let go. A long while later, their emotions finally calmed down. "Qin how did you escape? Do you know that we were worried to death? We all thought that you wouldn't be able to come back alive." The plain-clothed woman sized up her daughter and said with heartache, "Look at you. You're so haggard. You must have suffered a lot." "I didn't. It's you who suffered, mother." Dong Qin shook her head. "Sigh." The plain-clothed woman sighed and said hesitantly, "Although I don't want to tell you, but, mother, you don't have to say it. I know everything." Dong Qin nodded. "You know everything?" The plain-clothed woman was startled. "Yes. Not only did I know that father died, but I also know that he became the scapegoat for Dong Qingyuan and the others. He didn't deserve to die. Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, the 9 great commanders, and the emperor deserved to die." Dong Qin clenched her fists and her eyes were filled with murderous intent. "Don't talk nonsense. If the emperor knows about this, our entire family will be finished." The plain-clothed woman's expression changed. However, she could not help but heave a sigh of relief when she remembered that they were in her spatial divine item. "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone about this." Dong Qin comforted her. "Qin you've become more sensible than before." The plain-clothed woman's face was filled with relief as she asked, "How did you know? How did you escape?" "This." Dong Qin hesitated with a difficult expression. "If you don't want to say it, then don't say it. It's fine as long as you come back alive. Come, let's go home. Your grandfather and grandmother are looking forward to your return every day." The plain-clothed woman smiled. "I can't go back now." Dong Qin shook her head. "Why?" The plain-clothed woman was puzzled. "Because everyone knows that I've become Qin Feiyang's captive. If I show myself now, everyone will definitely question and suspect me. They might even wonder if I've reached an agreement with Qin Feiyang," Dong Qin said in a deep voice. "Then, have you reached an agreement with Qin Feiyang?" The plain-clothed woman was surprised when she heard this. Dongqing pondered for a while before looking up at her mother. If I say yes, will you be angry? The plain-clothed woman hesitated for a moment before shaking her head. No, because I know that even if you've reached an agreement with him, it's for survival. Thank you, mother. Please don't worry. No matter what decision I make, it's for the good of our family. Dongqing said. I believe you. The plain-clothed woman nodded. Dongqing was touched. No matter what, the people she trusted and cared about her the most were definitely her family members. All of a sudden, a trace of suspicion crept into Dongqing's eyes as she asked, Mother, where did you come from earlier? Sigh. The plain-clothed woman sighed deeply and said in melancholy, Ever since your father died, our family has been cursed and our status has plummeted. If this goes on, we'll be destroyed sooner or later. Therefore, I discussed with a group of elders to see if we can find someone to help us. Who did you look for? Dongqing frowned. The 10 main lineal families. Because only the 10 main lineal families can help us. As for the other main lineal families, they're not even as strong as us. They're useless to us. To put it bluntly, we went to look for a backer. The plain-clothed woman sighed. What was the outcome? Dongqing asked. If there was a good outcome, I wouldn't be so worried. We usually give the 10 main lineal families a lot of offerings, but at the critical moment, no one is willing to help us. In fact, they won't even let me in. They even humiliated me in all sorts of ways. The plain-clothed woman said angrily, clearly suffering a lot when she asked for help. Mother, you're too naive. Which of the 10 main lineal families isn't a hypocrite? They're one thing on the surface and another behind our backs. Furthermore, they have an extremely good relationship with Dongqing Yuan and the 9 commanders. Why would they help us? Dongqing sneered. She had seen enough of these hypocritical faces. End of chapter. Chapter 4476. Of course I know this, but there's nothing I can do about it. But it's fine now. You're back. My child, do you know? You're the backbone of our family now. The plain-clothed woman looked at Dongqing with relief. Mother, Dongqing murmured and shook her head, but I can't act without any worries now. The plain-clothed woman's expression froze. To prevent her mother from being disappointed, Dongqing hurriedly said, But don't worry. I've already thought of a way and told them. What way? The plain-clothed woman couldn't help but feel refreshed. Go find Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian. Dongqing said. What? Find them? Don't you know that they're the ones who killed your father? The plain-clothed woman was furious. Mother, they're not the ones who killed father. It's Dong Hanzong, Dongqing Yuan, and the 9 commanders who killed father. They're just trying to protect themselves. You can't force this hatred onto them, because they're the real victims. It's just that they're smarter and saw through this scheme. Dongqing said. The plain-clothed woman was speechless. Indeed, both of them were victims. If they hadn't seen through this scheme, they would probably have died an unnatural death. Dongqing sighed. So, mother, we have to be reasonable. We can't be sinister, cunning, and shameless like Dongqing Yuan and the others. Even if you're right, will they help us? After all, your father was also a participant. I'm afraid they only have hatred for us in their hearts. The plain-clothed woman hesitated. Don't worry. They'll agree to help us. But the prerequisite is that the experts of our families will of the heavens have to enter the Death God Army and become members of the 10th team, Dongqing said. Enter the 10th team? In that case, won't everyone be under Dongqing Yuan's nose? Won't our family be in more danger then? The plain-clothed woman's face was filled with worry. Dongqing Yuan was the commander of the entire Death God Army. Even so, Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian aren't kind people. Will they give Dongqing Yuan this chance? I'm afraid that his orders won't work in front of Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yunfeng. Dongqing sneered. That's true. The plain-clothed woman nodded. These 2 brothers had dared to kill Dongqing Yuan in broad daylight, not to mention a mere order. He probably did not take Dongqing Yuan seriously at all. In other words, although the 10th team was still a part of the Death God Army, it was no longer under Dongqing Yuan's control. The real leaders of the 10th squad were Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian. How can you be so sure that they will help us? Could it be that you contacted them in advance? The woman was curious. It's a secret for now. Dong Qin smiled mysteriously. You lass. The plain-clothed woman shook her head and laughed. She nodded and said, All right, I'll listen to you. I'll send someone to the Imperial Capital Mountain to look for them. No, I'll go personally. Yes. Only by going personally can I show my sincerity. Dong Qin nodded. What are you going to do next? Are you prepared to wander outside forever? The plain-clothed woman couldn't bear it. She was such a good girl, but in the end, she was ruined in the hands of that bastard Dong Hanzong. Every time she thought of this, she obviously blamed herself deeply in her heart. If she had been more ruthless back then and forcefully separated the two of them, then her daughter would not have suffered so much now. A debt of blood must be paid in blood. I have more important things to do. Killing intent flashed in Dong Qin's eyes. The plain-clothed woman's expression changed when she heard this. She hurriedly said, Qiner, don't do anything stupid. With your strength, you can defeat the 9 commanders and even the current Dongqing Yuan, but you can't defeat Dong Hanzong because he is too strong. The strength of the 9 commanders was only stronger than the members of the Death God army. Compared to Dongqin, they were still a lot weaker. After all, Dongqin could control 2 heavenly Dao Wills after activating the Clear Heaven domain. As for Dongqing Yuan, now that he had lost his pinnacle sovereign divine weapon and his origin source had been confiscated by the emperor, he was no match for Dongqin. Only Dong Hanzong, he, who controlled the universe domain, could mercilessly suppress Dongqin. Don't worry, I haven't been blinded by hatred and won't do anything beyond my ability. Dongqin comforted her. That's good. The plain-clothed woman heaved a sigh of relief. It wasn't easy to see her daughter come back alive. She didn't want to lose her daughter again. Then let's leave it at that for now. Hurry and find brother Lu Yunfeng. Be polite. Dongqin took out an illusory form pill and changed her appearance again before parting ways with the plain-clothed woman. Imperial Capital Mountain. This wasn't just where the Imperial Palace was located. It was also where the Death God Army's base was located. Now, as the commander and vice-commander of the 10th team, the inner demons lived on Imperial Capital Mountain. The undulating mountains and rivers of Imperial Capital Mountain were majestic and magnificent. Between the mountains, the vegetation was green and dense. Countless auspicious beasts were galloping and soaring in the mountain streams. At the peak of each giant mountain, ancient palaces and towers were faintly discernible in the clouds. It was like a celestial palace. The entire Imperial Capital Mountain was enveloped in a barrier. There was only one entrance, and there was an expert guarding it. The plain-clothed woman came to Imperial Capital Mountain and looked at the entrance. There was a stone tablet that was 100 feet tall. The words Imperial Capital Mountain were written with iron hooks and silver, emitting a threatening aura that made people feel intimidated. Below the stone tablet sat a black-haired old man. This person was the guard of Imperial Capital Mountain. He was extremely powerful, controlled the will of the heavenly Tao, and had a sovereign divine weapon. Whoosh! Although Dongqin said it in a solemn manner, the plain-clothed woman was still a little nervous when she arrived at Imperial Capital Mountain. Would Lu Yunfeng and Dongqin really help her? Taking a deep breath, she walked to the entrance and looked at the black-haired old man. She bowed and said, I am Dong Yulan, the wife of Dong Cha. I request to see the commander of the 10th team, Lu Yunfeng. I hope you can make an exception. Dong Yulan. The black-haired old man opened his eyes and looked at Dong Yulan. A light flashed in his eyes as he said lightly, If you want to see Lu Yunfeng, you have to contact him first. I can only let you enter Imperial Capital Mountain after getting his consent. Dong Yulan suddenly looked troubled. She didn't even establish a contract with Lu Yunfeng. How could she contact him? Then I'll have to trouble you to inform him, Dong Yulan said. What do you think this place is, and who do you think I am? To run errands for you? A cold light flashed in the black-robed old man's eyes. Dong Yulan's expression froze. She didn't expect the guard of Imperial Capital Mountain to be so cold. What should she do? She even said that she would find Lu Yunfeng and Dong Qin for help, but now she couldn't even see them. Suddenly, Dong Yulan gritted her teeth and took out a divine weapon. This was a low-level sovereign divine weapon. She offered it to the black-robed old man with both hands and bowed. "I hope you can help me." The black-robed old man looked at the divine weapon in her hand, and a smile finally appeared on his face. He took the divine weapon without hesitation and stood up. "You can wait here." "Yes." Dong Yulan bowed and replied. Although she lost a divine weapon, as long as she could see Lu Yunfeng and Dong Qin, it was worth it. Speaking of which, it was a little ridiculous. In the past, these two brothers lowered their status and personally went to Flying Dragon City to look for them, but they still didn't want to see them. But now, just to see the two of them, she had to use a sovereign divine weapon as the price. Wasn't this just looking for trouble for herself? It was really like the saying, "If you knew this day would come, why did you do it in the first place?" Not long after the black-haired old man left, he returned. "Lord," Dong Yulan looked at the old man expectantly. "I'm sorry, they said they're not free right now and won't see anyone." The black-haired old man said indifferently. "What?" Dong Yulan's expression changed. Didn't her daughter already make arrangements? Why didn't they see her now? To be honest, I don't even know. Why are you still looking for them? Your man, Dong Cha, instigated Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, and the 9 commanders to plot against them. With such a deep hatred, how could they still see you? Don't come and ask for a rebuff. The black-robed old man sneered. Dong Yulan's face turned pale. She lost a sovereign divine weapon and still couldn't see the two of them? She definitely couldn't find this person to ask for the sovereign divine weapon now. Go. Don't be an eyesore here." The black-robed old man waved his hand. Dong Yulan suppressed her anger and unwillingly turned around and left. A moment later, she stood in the spatial divine item with the divine voice stone in her hand and looked at the projection of her daughter, Dong Qin. "What? Lu Yunfeng and the others won't see you?" Dong Qin raised her eyebrows. "Yes." Dong Yulan nodded, looking extremely disappointed. "Impossible. This is what we agreed on in advance. There must be something wrong with this. Go to the Imperial Capital Mountain again. This time, they will come out personally to see you." Dong Qin said. "Are you sure?" Dong Yulan looked at her suspiciously. "Would I lie to you?" "Go ahead." After saying that, Dong Qin turned off the divine voice stone and sent a message to Qin Feiyang again. Dong Yulan put away the divine voice stone and hesitated for a while. She couldn't help but make up her mind. Since she had already embarrassed herself, she didn't mind embarrassing herself again. After coming out of the spatial divine item, she immediately returned to the Imperial Capital Mountain. "Why are you still here?" The black-haired old man saw Dong Yulan coming back and immediately said angrily. Dong Yulan didn't say anything. Whoosh! The black-haired old man was about to get angry, but at this moment, accompanied by the sound of something breaking through the air, several figures flew out of the Imperial Capital Mountain. They were Dong Hanzong, Dong Yuerong, Dong Kuan, and Dong Qian. Looking at Dong Yulan standing outside, Dong Hanzong and the other 3 were stunned. What's going on? Why is she still standing here? Why are they here? Dong Yulan looked at the 4 people and couldn't help but panic. The black-haired old man glanced at Dong Hanzong and the other 3 and said through voice transmission, "She had already left, but I don't know why she came back. It seems that she's a little unwilling to give up." Dong Hanzong laughed secretly and asked, "Lu Yunfeng, Lu Yuntian, you haven't heard anything, right?" "Don't worry about that. They don't know anything now." The black-haired old man laughed secretly. Obviously, the black-haired old man didn't inform the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. Not only did he not inform the inner demons, but he also informed Dong Qingyuan and the others. In other words, this black-haired old man had been bought over by Dong Qingyuan and the others. End of this chapter. Chapter 4477. It's good that they don't know. Dong Hanzong sneered secretly. Dong Yulan came to the Imperial Capital Mountain to look for the 2 brothers. It was obvious that she was here to seek protection. As the people who killed Dong Cha, how could they allow such a thing to happen? Whether it was the top 10 families or the black-haired old man, they had already told them in advance. In other words, they would not give Dong Yulan any chance to turn the tables. Dong Hanzong walked out of the imperial capital mountain and landed in front of Dong Yulan. He bowed and said, "Auntie, may I know why you came to the imperial capital mountain? Why don't you tell me? Maybe I can help." Looking at this hypocritical face, Dong Yulan was really disgusted to the extreme. However, she did not dare to do anything. She could only endure it. "Dong Yulan, we all know that you are feeling very sad now, but it has already happened. There is no point in saying anything. You'd better go back and mourn for Dong Cha." "No, it's better that we send you back. It's a long journey. If something happens on the way, it will be another tragedy." Dong Yuerong and the other two also walked out and smiled at Dong Yulan. However, there was murderous intent hidden in their smiles. Although Dong Yulan could not feel the murderous intent of the three of them, there was an inexplicable uneasiness in her heart. Her rationality told her that she must not let the four of them escort her back. She quickly bowed and said, "There is no need to trouble the three commanders. I can go back by myself." "It's no trouble, no trouble." The three of them waved their hands and laughed. "What should I do?" Dong Yulan was flustered. It was obvious that they were up to no good. Just as Dong Yulan was at a loss, two more figures stepped on the air and came over. "How could we trouble the three commanders to escort a guest that we invited?" That arrogant, domineering, and unbelievable laughter also rolled over. "Oh no." Dong Hanzong and the other three were shocked. The black-haired old man's expression changed drastically on the spot. How did the two of them get the news? Dong Yulan was ecstatic. Her daughter did not lie to her. The two of them really came to rescue her in person. That's right. These two were the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. After Dong Qin sent a message to Qin Feiyang, Qin Feiyang immediately notified the inner demons. Only then did the inner demons know that Dong Yulan had arrived at Emperor Capital Mountain. Whoosh! Very soon, the two of them arrived above the stone tablet. The inner demons glanced at Dong Yulan, then glanced at Dong Hanzong and the other three. Then, they looked at the black-haired old man and laughed cruelly. "I really didn't expect that someone would dare to cause trouble right under our noses." The black-haired old man's eyes trembled. His face turned ghastly pale. The reason for that was because the two of them had personally arrived. This meant that what he had done before had been exposed. "Kneel." The eyes of the inner demons suddenly turned cold. A monstrous, murderous aura erupted and rushed toward the black-haired old man like a torrent. The black-haired old man's body shook, and he quickly looked at Dong Hanzong and the three great commanders. "Is it useful to look at them? Do they still dare to help you?" The inner demons' face was full of disdain. They simply treated Dong Hanzong and the three great commanders as air. They said coldly, "I told you to kneel. Didn't you hear me?" The monstrous, murderous aura instantly drowned the black-haired old man. The black-haired old man trembled on the spot and knelt on the ground weakly. "Indeed domineering," Dong Yulan murmured. Was this Lu Yuntian's aura? Even such a strong person with the will of heaven did not dare to act rashly in front of him. Then, she looked at Dong Hanzong and the three great commanders. Their faces were extremely ugly. However, they did not dare to act up. One person was able to intimidate everyone. This made Dong Yulan suddenly see hope. The inner demons landed in front of the black-haired old man step by step and laughed cruelly. "I admire your courage. Even now, you still dare to go against us. Don't tell me that you think Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, and the 9 great commanders can protect you." "I'm sorry. I was confused for a moment and did such a stupid thing." Lu Yuntian. No, Lord Lu. Please give me a way out and let me live." The black-haired old man was terrified. His body trembled. He did not expect that the matter would be exposed. These two brothers had even dared to kill Dong Qingyuan. Wasn't offending them the same as courting death? Even if Lu Yuntian killed him here, the emperor would not say anything, because this was what he asked for. "If you want me to let you go, sure. What did you take before? Now spit it out double for me." The inner demons said, Okay. The black-haired old man nodded and quickly took out the sovereign divine weapon that Dong Yulan gave him. I said double for you. The inner demon's eyes were cold. Ah. The black-haired old man's body stiffened and hurriedly said, but the sovereign divine weapon on me was given to me by the emperor. If I take it out, the emperor will punish me. What does it have to do with me? I only want the result now, the inner demon said. The black-haired old man was in despair. However, Dong Hanzong and the three great commanders didn't lend him a helping hand since they were in cahoots with each other. In the end, under the inner demon's coercion, he could only obediently take out a sovereign divine weapon and give it to the inner demons. The inner demons did not accept it. With a wave of his hand, 2 sovereign divine weapons fell in front of Dong Yulan. These are for me? Dong Yulan looked at the inner demons in disbelief. You don't want them? The inner demons laughed. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, sir. Dong Yulan was very grateful. She did not expect that not only would she get back the sovereign divine weapon that she had given away, but she would also get another one. Suddenly, the inner demons raised his arm and grabbed the black-haired old man's head. His 5 fingers exerted force, and the old man's head exploded on the spot. The old man's spirit escaped in fear. This is just a lesson. If you dare to do this again, it won't be so simple. Scram, the inner demon said. Hearing this, the black-haired old man's spirit frantically fled, as if he had been granted amnesty. Amazing. Dong Yulan's heart was in turmoil. This was Lu Yuntian? He was simply tyrannical to the point that it was shocking. Trash like you actually dare to be so rash? The inner demon's face was full of contempt. Then, his gaze fell on Dong Qian and the other 2. He joked, didn't you say that you would escort the guest we invited? It just so happens that we have time now. Why don't we escort her together? We can have a good chat on the way. The 3's pupils contracted. Dong Qian said guiltily, sorry, we don't have time now. After saying that, they wanted to leave. The inner demons took a step in front of the entrance, blocking the 3's way. He laughed and said, it doesn't matter if you don't have time. What matters is that we have time. What do you want? The 3's expressions were full of vigilance. Nothing. I just want to have a good chat with you. The inner demons laughed. No time. The 3's faces were cold. Chat? I'd be a fool if I believed you. No time? Isn't this a bit too much? You have time to escort Dong Yulan, but you have no time to chat with us? Oh right. I almost forgot. Didn't the emperor ask you to face the wall and reflect on your mistakes for 3 years? Why are you still loitering outside? Don't tell me you don't even care about the emperor's order? No. I have to take you to the emperor to reason with him. The inner demons looked at the 3 with a playful expression. Be ****. Don't go too far. The 3's expressions changed. Although everyone knew in their hearts that the emperor wanted them to face the wall and reflect on their mistakes, it was nothing more than a formality. However, if these 2 brothers insisted on being serious, the emperor would really punish them for the sake of the emperor's face and dignity. Go too far? Haha. Who's the one going too far? Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? A bunch of trash. You want me to let you go, right? Fine. Crawl into the imperial capital mountain on your knees. The inner demons sneered. What did you say? You want us to crawl into the imperial capital mountain on our knees? The 3's faces were filled with disbelief. Was this person talking in his sleep? They were the commanders of the Death God army. In terms of status, they were on equal footing. What right did he have to make them crawl in on their knees? Think carefully. The emperor has already indulged you once. If he finds out that you colluded with the guards here to murder Dong Yulan, what will the consequences be? The inner demon sneered. Dong Kuan said angrily, if you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. You said that we wanted to murder Dong Yulan. Where's the evidence? Show us the evidence if you dare. Isn't that damned old man the best witness? Why don't we go find him and bring him to the palace to meet the emperor? The inner demon sneered. The 3's eyes trembled. The inner demon smiled faintly. Come with us to meet the emperor or crawl into the imperial capital mountain on your knees. Choose for yourselves. The three's bodies trembled. They were about to go crazy. Why did they always bump into these two no matter where they were? The most important thing was that these two always had something on them. Dong Hanzong raised his eyebrows and said in a low voice, "What's in it for you? Don't forget that Dong Cha is the one who harmed you. There's no other way. Our 10th team is short of people now, and Dong Yulan promised us that all the experts of the will of heaven in her clan would join our 10th team. Besides, it's not her family's fault. Dong Cha was wrong, but Dong Yulan and the others weren't. We still have to be people with a conscience, right?" The inner demons looked at Dong Hanzong with eyes full of mockery. He didn't deliberately target Dong Hanzong, because with Dong Hanzong's strength and talent, even if he had made a big mistake, as long as he didn't betray the Divine Kingdom or the Central Dynasty, the Emperor would be lenient. So targeting him didn't mean much. Hearing this, Dong Hanzong suppressed the anger in his heart and left Dong Yuerong and the others behind. He stepped into the imperial capital mountain without looking back and disappeared. That little bastard. How dare he leave us alone? The three's anger reached its peak. Isn't that normal? Do you think Dong Hanzong really respects you? No. In his eyes, not to mention trash like you. I'm afraid that even Dong Qingyun is only a chess piece in his hands. The inner demons mocked. What a bunch of naive people. How could someone as ambitious as Dong Hanzong treat others with sincerity? The three's hands clenched. Hurry up. Don't make me do it. Otherwise, it won't be as simple as crawling in. The inner demon's eyes flashed coldly. Obviously, they had lost their patience. At the same time, Lu Jiajin's hand, which was hidden in his sleeve, was holding a transmission stone. There was a faint smile on his face. End of chapter. Chapter 4478. Looking at the expressions of the inner demons, Dong Qian and the other two knew that there was no room for negotiation. If they didn't crawl in on their knees, they would have to see the Emperor. For them, the situation was even worse, because the Emperor had already given them a chance. Last time in the Imperial Palace, the Emperor personally said that he didn't want this to happen again. Although the Emperor had been protecting them, everyone's patience had a limit. Once this limit was exceeded, it would usher in a disaster. They didn't dare to imagine. When the Emperor's anger came, what kind of disaster would it be? Therefore, they gritted their teeth, endured the grievances, knelt in the void, and crawled into the imperial capital mountain step by step. Hey! The inner demons laughed. You're still too young to fight with me. Dong Yulan witnessed the whole process. At this moment, there was only one word in her heart: strong. All of a sudden, she felt a little ridiculous. Her husband had actually overestimated his capabilities and joined Dong Hanzong and the others in plotting against those two terrifying existences. This kind of person was not someone they could offend at all. Fortunately, her daughter had the ability to make this connection. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Because compared to the revenge of Dong Hanzong, Dong Qingyuan, and the 9 commanders, she was more afraid of the revenge of these two people. If her daughter didn't make this connection, then based on her husband's actions, these two people would definitely madly take revenge on her family. At that time, she was afraid that her family would end up being exterminated. Dong Qian and the other two finally climbed up the imperial capital mountain. Immediately, the three of them got up and turned to look at the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. A cold light flashed in their eyes, and then they turned and left without looking back. Overestimating yourself. The inner demon smiled disdainfully and looked at Dong Yulan. Dong Yulan greets the two commanders. Dong Yulan hurriedly bowed. No need to be so polite. Lu Jiajin smiled faintly, looked down at the transmission stone in his hand, and said with a smile, I already know the purpose of your visit. Let the strong will of heaven in your family come and report to me at any time. Thank you, sir. Dong Yulan was very grateful. Finally, she found a backer. And it was a backer that even Dong Qingyuan couldn't do anything to. Lu Jiajin added, in addition, the more outstanding young people in your family can also become the reserve members of our 10th team. Thank you. Dong Yulan kept apologizing. She wasn't stupid. This person was doing this to protect the young people of her family. Because as long as they had the status of a reserve member, Dong Hanzong and the others would not dare to openly deal with them. It was even more important. Once they became reserve members, these two people would be able to protect them legitimately. However, you have to do me a small favor. Lu Jiajin's eyes flashed. Please give me your orders. Dong Yulan showed her utmost respect. The two people in front of her were the guardians of her family. She couldn't afford to be careless. Lu Jiajin raised his arm and revealed the divine sound transmission stone in his hand. Looking at the divine sound transmission stone, Dong Yulan was a little confused. Establish a contract bridge. Lu Jiajin smiled. Dong Yulan was slightly taken aback. She was overwhelmed by the unexpected favor and hurriedly took out the divine sound transmission stone. How great of an honor was it to be able to establish a contract with this person? After establishing the contract bridge, Lu Jiajin sent the recorded images to Dong Yulan. Dong Yulan was shocked and asked suspiciously, "What are you doing?" "Help me spread the word." Lu Jiajin smiled. "What?" Dong Yulan was dumbfounded. It recorded the scene of Dong Qian and the other two climbing up the imperial capital mountain. If Dong Qian and the other two knew that she was the one who spread the news, they would try their best to take revenge on her. Although she now had Lu Yuntian and his brother as her backer, it was easier to dodge an open spear than an arrow in the dark. "Don't worry. Dong Qian and the others will only think that it was us who spread the news, not you. I'm just too lazy to go out, so I asked you to do it for me." Lu Jiajin smiled faintly. Dong Yulan felt that it made sense. After all, in the eyes of Dong Qian and the others, she was just a small figure. How would she dare to do such a thing? Then she asked suspiciously, "But why are you doing this?" Now, the 10 lineal families and the other lineal families have a close relationship with Dong Qingyuan and the others. Especially the 10 lineal families, they are in cahoots with them. So I have to show them who's the boss. As for the lineal families, when they see this video and Dong Qingyuan and the others apologizing to us in public on the punishment platform, this matter will definitely have a big impact on them. Combining these two things, as long as they are smart enough, they will make a wise choice. Lu Jiajin smiled. So you're saying that once these direct descendants see this video, they'll come to curry favor with you and allow the experts of the will of the heavens from their clan to enter the 10th squad? Dong Yulan asked. That's right. Lu Jiajin nodded. Amazing. Dong Yulan mumbled. On one hand, it could intimidate the 10 lineal families, and on the other hand, it could make the other lineal families surrender. It could be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. No, it should be killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Because while intimidating the 10 lineal families and the other lineal families, it also humiliated Dong Qian and the others. Go. If there's anything in the future, don't come to the imperial capital mountain. Just send me a message. Lu Jiajin smiled. Yes, I'll take my leave. Dong Yulan replied respectfully. Then she turned around and activated a space-time teleportation divine artifact and left happily. What's wrong with you? I asked you to do a small thing, but you ended up in such a sorry state. In a courtyard, Dong Qingyuan looked at Dong Hanzong and then at Dong Yuerong and the other 2 who were covered in dust. His face was full of anger. It's our fault for not doing our job well. Please punish us. The 3 of them were sullen and angry. Not only did they suffer such a great humiliation, but they were also reprimanded when they came back. These 2 damn brothers, I'll make you pay the price sooner or later. At the same time, they stared at Dong Hanzong angrily. Why are you looking at me? Dong Hanzong frowned. You still have the nerve to ask? Don't you know? You actually left us and left alone. Dong Kuan said angrily. Idiot. Dong Hanzong sneered and didn't hide it at all. He really didn't give them any face. What did you say? The 3 of them were furious. Dong Qingyuan snorted and said, Dong Hanzong is right. You are idiots. Corps Commander. The 3 of them looked at Dong Qingyuan in disbelief. We've been fighting with you for many years. Even if we didn't make any contributions, we've worked hard. It's fine if you don't speak up for us now, but you're actually helping Dong Qingyuan. What's the meaning of this? What can Dong Hanzong do when facing Lu Yunfeng and the other one? Will they let you go on account of Dong Hanzong? Don't be too naive. Dong Hanzong's departure is the wisest choice. Because if he stays to help you, given Lu Yunfeng and the other one's character, they'll definitely make a big fuss. By then, you won't just crawl into Emperor Capital Mountain on your knees. You might be fired on the spot, or even lose your life. Dong Qingyuan glared at the three of them angrily. They were really brainless. Based on what you said, he's doing it for our own good? Dong Yuerong and the other two were very unhappy. Wasn't he just afraid of implicating himself? What kind of high-sounding excuse was that? Because the mastermind of this matter was Dong Qingyuan. It was Dong Qingyuan who bribed the guards at the entrance of Emperor Capital Mountain. It was also Dong Qingyuan who asked them to kill Dong Yulan. If the emperor pursued this matter, as the mastermind, he would definitely be blamed. He's doing it for your own good. Let's stop this matter here. I know that you're feeling very wrong now, but no matter what, at least we didn't alarm the emperor. It's a blessing in disguise. Dong Qingyuan sighed. Why were these two little bastards so difficult to deal with? Dong Hanzong's eyes flashed. He looked at Dong Qingyuan and said, "Teacher, don't you think it's strange?" "What's strange?" Dong Qingyuan was stunned and looked at him suspiciously. The guards at Emperor Capital Mountain clearly didn't inform Lu Yunfeng and the other one. How did they know that Dong Yulan was outside? They even knew that the guards took one of Dong Yulan's sovereign divine weapons? Most importantly, they came at such a timely time. I don't believe that they have the ability to predict the future. Dong Hanzong frowned. It's indeed a little strange. Hearing this, Dong Qingyuan nodded. I heard from the guards that Dong Yulan left at that time, but suddenly returned. Not long after she returned, Lu Yuntian and the other one rushed over. Could it be that something happened while Dong Yulan was away? Dong Yuerong was suspicious. Legion Commander, something bad has happened. Suddenly, a voice was heard. Then, a figure hurried into the courtyard. It was an old man in a black robe. Although he was old, he looked ruddy and energetic. This was the commander of the second team, Dong Haitian. What's the matter? Why are you in such a panic? Dong Qingyuan and the others looked at him suspiciously. Dong Haitian was about to speak when he suddenly saw Dong Kuan and the other two. He hesitated. Speak. Dong Qingyuan raised his eyebrows. Earlier, I suddenly received a video from a member of the second team. After Dong Haitian finished speaking, he took out a voice transmission stone. As he waved his hand, a video slowly unfolded. It was the video of Dong Kuan and the other two kneeling and crawling into Emperor Capital Mountain. What? Who spread this? Dong Kuan and the other two were furious. If this video was spread, how could they face others? Wouldn't this become a joke? Do you still need to think about it? It must be Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian's masterpiece. Dong Hanzong sneered. Damn it. The three of them clenched their fists, their eyes extremely gloomy. I think I should have understood the truth of this matter. Dong Hanzong's eyes flashed. What truth? Dong Qingyuan looked at Dong Qingyuan. This is the trap that Lu Yuntian and Dong Yulan set up for us, Zhang Xian said. They should have known in advance that the guards at the entrance of Emperor Capital Mountain have been bribed by us. They should have expected that Dong Yulan would come to Emperor Capital Mountain and would be in a difficult position. So, they deliberately let Dong Yulan come here, making us think that Dong Yulan came here to seek protection, so as to lure us to attack Dong Yulan. Actually, Dong Yulan has already submitted to them. When she left halfway, she must have gone to inform Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian. Dong Hanzong said. End of chapter. Chapter 4479. They're vicious indeed. Dong Qingyuan was enraged when he heard that. They set up this trap and recorded it on purpose. Now, they're spreading it around. There's no doubt that they're taking revenge on us. Dong Hanzong said in a deep voice. Smart. Dong Qingyuan looked at Dong Hanzong with admiration. You flatter me, teacher. It's easy to figure out such petty tricks. Dong Hanzong shook his head with a smile. Despite his words, he looked rather smug. But was that really the case? He didn't know that he was just trying to be smart. Everyone knows how to be wise in hindsight. If you're so capable, why didn't you think of it when you were at the entrance? Dong Qian suddenly sneered. Dong Hanzong's expression froze. He glanced at Dong Qian from the corner of his eyes. There was a hint of anger between his brows. Are you trying to undermine me? Don't think that I won't dare to touch you just because you're the commander of the Death God Army and teacher's confidant. If you provoke me, I'll even kill the King of Heaven. They might have another motive for doing this. Dong Haitian hurriedly said when he saw the tense atmosphere. What is it? Everyone looked at him in confusion. To intimidate the 10 great clans and the other lineal clans. Dong Haitian said. That was the root of the problem. That was indeed Lu Jiajin's motive. Dong Hanzong was just being a little clever. However, not only did he not realize it, but he was also complacent. He was a typical clown. Just as expected, the Central Dynasty was plunged into an unprecedented storm as the video spread across a wide area. The 10 great clans fell silent. They were all thinking about the same thing. Dong Qingyuan and the others had fallen in the hands of the Lu brothers more than once. Could it be that the rise of these two brothers was unstoppable? If that was the case, should they seriously reconsider and choose a new side? The lineal clans had placed their hopes on Dong Qingyuan and the others. However, in just a few days, Dong Qingyuan and the others had fallen into the hands of these two brothers. This made them realize that their previous choice might have been a mistake. Based on the current situation, Dong Qingyuan and the others were no match for the brothers. Patriarch, what do you think we should do? The experts of the second direct family were gathered together at this moment, looking at a middle-aged man sitting at the top. Sigh. Who would have thought that they would be so strong? Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, and the other 9 grand marshals were no match for them. This Dong Yulan has made the right choice. The middle-aged man sighed. Judging from the current situation, Dong Qingyuan and the others are no match for them. Why don't we join them as well? An expert from the clan said. This person was an expert who had grasped the will of the heavenly Tao. The words of a person who grasped the will of the heavenly Tao still carried a lot of weight. Hearing this, the middle-aged man looked at the other experts and asked, What do you all think? Everyone was silent for a moment before nodding. Only by relying on a more stable backer could he have room for survival. All right. I'll go to Imperial Capital Mountain to look for them now. The middle-aged man stood up. He had already missed an opportunity the last time. This time, he could not hesitate. Days passed. The members of the major direct family clans made their choices one after another. Although Dong Qingyuan was still interfering in this matter, no one was willing to listen to his nonsense anymore. As a result, half a year later, all the direct family clans had submitted to the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. One had to admit, although there were many direct family clans, the number of experts with the will of the heavenly Tao was really not comparable to the top 10 direct family clans. In total, there were only a little more than 1,200 experts. On the surface, there were more than 5,000 experts with the will of the heavenly Tao in the Central Dynasty. In other words, excluding the direct family clans and a few hidden experts, the top 10 direct family clans accounted for more than half of them. But for the inner demons and Lu Jiajin, this was also a good start. They believed that as their prestige grew in the future, the top 10 direct family clans might stand on their side. However, although there were not many experts with the will of the heavenly Tao, there were many reserve members in the 10th team. Among these reserve members, there were genius disciples from the direct family clans and young talents from the side family clans. In short, more than half of the extremely talented young people in the Central Dynasty were recruited into the 10th team. Because young people had a mentality of idolatry, the strength and courage shown by the inner demons and Lu Jiajin were worthy of being called idols. So these young people basically took the initiative to join the 10th team. In terms of quality, the 10th team, if not including the inner demons and Lu Jiajin, compared to the other 9 teams, was worlds apart. But, in terms of scale, the current 10th team was worthy of being first. At the same time, there was another question that had been puzzling everyone. It had been half a year. Why was there no movement from Qin Feiyong, Madman Imo, Golden-Winged Wolf King, Sea Lion Demon King? If the Central Dynasty had not been in a state of lockdown, everyone would have thought that they had left the Central Dynasty. Where exactly were these people hiding? But even if Qin Feiyong and the others did not move, The members of the Death God army lurking in the major cities did not dare to let down their guard. One evening, in the southwest of the Central Dynasty, in a remote mountain, a woman dressed in black was like a ghost in the night. She passed through the forest and landed on the peak of a mountain that was several hundred meters tall. This woman was Dong Qin, who had disappeared for half a year. She quietly stood on the edge of the cliff, looking at a canyon not far ahead. This canyon was huge, intricate, and complicated. Looking down from the sky, it was like a maze. And looking around in the canyon, not a blade of grass grew. Ferocious beasts were everywhere, and not a living person could be found. However, it was such a desolate canyon that deeply attracted Dong Qin's attention at this moment. After half a year, I finally found out the whereabouts of your family. Now, I will pay you back double for the pain you brought me. Dong Qin murmured, her eyes revealing a piercing murderous intent. Boom. The next moment, she waved her hand, and the ultimate profound of the 7 supreme laws appeared out of nowhere. The will of the heavenly Tao erupted. Following closely, the ultimate profound of the 7 supreme laws, with monstrous divine power, blasted into the canyon like meteorites. Accompanied by a loud bang, an enchantment appeared out of thin air above the canyon. This was an enchantment formed by intertwining the power of laws. It shone with dazzling divine light and actually blocked Dong Qin's 7 ultimate profound. Who is it? How dare you come here to make trouble? A cold shout sounded. 3 auras burst out from the enchantment, and they actually contained the will of heavenly Tao. This was not the aura of a beast, but the aura of a human. But in the canyon, except for the beasts, there was no human existence. How could there be a human's aura? If someone was here, they would definitely be surprised by this. However, Dong Qin was not surprised at all, as if she had long known all of this. Boom. The next moment, ultimate profound rushed out from the enchantment, and they were all ultimate profound of the supreme laws. A total of 18 of them rushed toward Dong Qin's 7 ultimate profound. Ants. To this, Dong Qin just smiled contemptuously. A vast amount of energy surged out from his body. Boom. The next moment, a pale golden domain appeared. This domain was only about 5 feet, and mysterious runes were suspended in it. With the appearance of this domain, Dong Qin's aura instantly skyrocketed. That's right. This was her domain, the vast heaven domain. Go to hell. Following her cold words, the 7 ultimate profound of the supreme laws once again burst out with a will of heavenly Tao. This was equivalent to a dual will of heavenly Tao. This is vast heaven domain. It's you. An old voice sounded in the enchantment, full of disbelief. That's right. It's me. I'm here for revenge. Dong Qin smiled coldly. The 7 ultimate profound slammed forward. The other party's 18 ultimate profound were shattered on the spot. Immediately after, the 7 ultimate profound slammed into the enchantment again. With a loud crack, the enchantment shattered. A shocking scene appeared. As the enchantment shattered, the scene in the canyon suddenly changed. In the canyon, all the beasts disappeared in an instant. The canyon that originally looked barren also turned into green mountains and clear waters. One could even see a winding stream with fish swimming in it. On both sides of the stream, the vegetation was lush and wildflowers were blooming, attracting bees and butterflies. This was completely different from the canyon they saw before. If the canyon they saw before was a land of death where not even a blade of grass grew, the canyon now was a paradise with a beautiful environment. Moreover, in the middle of the canyon, there was also a small village. This small village had about 100 households. There were old people and children. Although this place looked like an inconspicuous small village, the people here were all wearing gorgeous clothes, revealing an extraordinary temperament. At this time, they were all gathered in the village, looking at Dong Qin, who was standing on the mountain peak. Their eyes were full of surprise. The 3 people in the lead. One was an old man with a stooped body and white hair. One was a middle-aged woman, about 30 years old, wearing a gorgeous long dress. Her long black hair was tied up high, with a delicate jade hairpin at the end of her hair, looking graceful and luxurious. The last person was a middle-aged man, 8 feet tall, burly and strong like a small giant, exuding a valiant aura. Obviously, the previous enchantment not only protected this village, but also created illusions so that even if people passed by here, they wouldn't be able to discover the small village under the enchantment. How did you find this place? And what do you mean by what you said before? What deep hatred do we have for you to come to us for revenge? When he came back to his senses, the white-haired old man's face was sullen and asked in a hoarse voice. This chapter ends. Chapter 4480. It took me a lot of time and effort to find this place. I didn't expect Dong Kuan to hide you guys so well. Could it be that he has done too many bad things and is afraid that someone will take revenge on him? As for deep hatred, do you still need to ask me? Don't you know? I really don't know. You should ask your son, Dong Kuan. Dong Qin smiled coldly. At this moment, her eyes were blood red as if she had transformed into a female demon. Could it be? The white-haired old man was shocked and hurriedly said, We have heard about your father's death, but he was the mastermind. My son was instigated by your father. How can you vent your anger on us? Haha. Dong Qin raised her head and laughed maniacally. At this point, she still dared to say that her father was the mastermind? Unforgivable. Dong Kuan's father, Dong Kuan's wife, Dong Kuan's brother, and his son and grandson, all of you, go to hell. Dong Qin smiled sinisterly. The 7 ultimate mysteries were activated again. The dual will of heaven erupted, bringing with it the power to destroy heaven and earth as it charged toward the village. All of you, run. Inform Dong Kuan to come back and save us. The white-haired old man roared. Run? Don't be so naive. It wasn't easy for me to find this place. How can I let you run away? Dong Qin smiled coldly. With a wave of her hand, a barrier appeared and shrouded the entire canyon. Damn it. Calm down. This matter really has nothing to do with us. Can you go and check it out first? The people in the village were terrified to the extreme. I am very calm. It's because I am calm that I have to kill all of you and bury you with my father. Dong Qin smiled sinisterly. As her voice fell, the 7 ultimate mysteries attacked. The white-haired old man, middle-aged woman, and middle-aged burly man resisted. But it was meaningless. Boom. As the 7 ultimate mysteries fell, not only the entire village, but even the entire canyon was instantly turned into ashes. Except for the middle-aged woman and the other 2, everyone else was killed. Not a single one was left. Bastard. The 3 of them roared. That kind of pain made them feel heartbroken. All of you know this kind of pain. When I learned of my father's death, I felt the same. I hate it. Although my father is in the wrong, the main culprits are Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, and the 9 Great Commanders. I must let them experience the pain that I suffered. Die, all of you. Dong Qin waved her hand, and an expanse of the energy of laws gushed out. The 3 of them let out miserable cries, and their souls were obliterated on the spot. Even so, Dong Qin was still worried. She released her inner sight to cover her surroundings. Indeed, not a single soul was left alive. After confirming that not a single soul had escaped, he waved his hand, and the barrier dissipated. The clear heaven domain can only be maintained for an hour, but it is already enough to kill them. She muttered to herself and opened a space-time tunnel to head to her next destination. Next, another 8 secluded places were slaughtered. In less than an hour, Han Zongqing, Dong Qin arrived with a murderous aura. However, she did not show herself directly. She stood on a mountain peak outside the city and looked at Han Zong's city from afar with a trace of hesitation on her face. Her current hesitation was not because of her previous feelings for Dong Hanzong. Rather, it was because she had some misgivings about Han Zongqing. Han Zongqing was different from the other places she had been to before. Here, there were members of the Death God army lurking, and there were a lot of people in the city. If she was unable to kill them all, her identity would be exposed. Because her identity would be exposed, it would implicate her clansmen, so this made her very hesitant. Dong Hanzong, I'll let you off first. In the end, she still chose to silently turn around and leave. Reason overcame the hatred in her heart. Han Zhongqing was bound to be destroyed, but not now. A few days later. What's going on? How could everyone's contract bridge disappear? Imperial Mountain. Dong Kuan sat in the hall of a courtyard, looking at the sound transmission god's stone in his hand in surprise. He originally wanted to send a message to his family, but in the end, he discovered that all the family members who had established a contract bridge with him had all disappeared. Could it be there were only two possibilities for the contract bridge to disappear? First, the other party's sound transmission godstone shattered. Second, the other party died. Swish. He suddenly got up and hurriedly rushed out of the courtyard. Looking at the few courtyards beside him, he shouted, Dong Qian, Dong Qing, Dong Haitian, come out quickly. In a short while, Dong Qian and the others hurriedly ran out and asked in surprise, Why did you suddenly call us out in such a hurry? My family's contract bridges have all disappeared inexplicably. I suspect that my family might have met with misfortune, Dong Kuan said in a deep voice. What? How is this possible? The 8 of them had a look of disbelief. Dong Kuan said, I really have an uneasy premonition in my heart. Quickly accompany me back to take a look. Okay. The 8 of them nodded. The group immediately left Imperial Mountain in a mighty manner, then opened the space-time tunnel and descended in the sky above the canyon. In an instant, the 9 of them were dumbfounded. The original canyon had long been turned into ruins. The void was filled with a pungent smell of blood. Father, madam, brother. Dong Kuan's face was pale as he called out his family's name in despair. However, in such a vast world, there was no sound in response to him. Dong Yuerong and the others looked at each other and also took out their respective sound transmission godstones at the same time. What? Immediately, the 8 of them also suddenly changed their expressions, because their family's contract bridges had all disappeared. Impossible. This must be a coincidence. The 8 of them could no longer care about Dong Kuan. They opened the space-time tunnel and quickly left. On the same day, this news came from the Central Dynasty. What did you say? The family members of the 9 great commanders of the Death God Army were all killed? That's right. Is it true or not? Don't joke around. Nonsense. Would I joke about this kind of thing? According to a friend of mine in the Death God Army, none of the family members of the 9 great commanders were spared. Even the children in their family died tragically in a pool of blood. Damn. Who is so daring? They are the close relatives of the 9 great commanders. Could it be Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian? How is that possible? Given the characters of these 2 brothers, if they really wanted to take action, they would do it openly. How could they commit such an act of assassination? That makes sense. They even dared to kill Dong Qingyun openly, let alone the family members of the 9 great commanders. Then who is the culprit? Could it be Dong Cha's family? Don't joke around. Dong Cha's family members don't have such guts. I think it might be Qin Feiyang and the others. Think about it. They haven't done anything for more than half a year. Maybe they are investigating the whereabouts of the 9 great commanders' families. Moreover, other than them, I can't think of anyone else who has such guts. Everyone was discussing. Imperial Capital Mountain. Imperial Palace. Your Majesty, I beg you, please uphold justice for us. Dong Kuan and the other 8 knelt in the main hall, looking at the emperor with tears in their eyes. The emperor's expression was extremely ugly. Killing the family members of the 9 great commanders was undoubtedly a challenge to his authority as the emperor. The inner demons, Lu Jiajin, Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, and Princess Yuxian were all present. Dong Hanzong looked at the 9 great commanders, and his eyes flashed slightly. He turned to the inner demons and said calmly, Do you 2 have anything to say about this? The inner demons and Lu Jiajin were stunned. At first, they were wondering who had done it. In their hearts, they already thought of a person. It might be Dong Qin. However, they didn't expect Dong Hanzong to suddenly point the finger at them. What do you mean? Are you suspecting that they did it? Princess Yuxian looked at Dong Hanzong and asked. Dong Hanzong looked at Princess Yuxian and sighed. Your Highness, I don't want to, but I can't help but suspect because the two of them have the deepest grudge with the 9 great commanders. I think so too. Dong Qingyuan nodded. Bastard. It must be you. It's not enough for you to humiliate us, and now you want to kill our family members. Are you still human? Dong Kuan and the other 8 immediately glared at the inner demons and Dong Qingyuan with murderous intent. The emperor looked at the group of people and remained silent. The inner demons and Dong Qingyuan were stunned. They finally understood what it felt like to be shot while lying down. Are you done? If you are, it's my turn now. We don't even care about the 9 of you, let alone your family members. The inner demons' face was full of disdain. You. The 9 great commanders glared at Dong Qingyuan. What about me? Am I not telling the truth? Let me tell you, if I really want to kill your family members, not only will I not hide, but I will also call all of you together and kill them in front of you. You heard me right. I am that arrogant. The inner demon snickered. Princess Yuxian was dumbfounded. This bastard is too arrogant. Even the emperor couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. This guy really didn't put the 9 great commanders in his eyes. Looking at the 9 great commanders glaring at him, the inner demons laughed and said, "You're not convinced? Do you still have any family members? Bring me to them now, and see if I dare to kill them in front of you." Your Highness, the 9 great commanders hated the arrogant and despotic inner demon to the extreme. They looked at the emperor and shouted. Obviously, they hoped that the emperor could extinguish the arrogance of the inner demons. I also believe that they did not do this, the emperor said. The 9 of them suddenly collapsed on the ground. Why were 2 people with different surnames valued by the emperor so much? They were not convinced and even more unwilling. Princess Yuxian suddenly said, I think this matter is most likely related to Qin Feiyang. How so? Lu Jiajin was stunned. He looked up at Princess Yuxian and asked, apart from them, who else would have such means and courage? Princess Yuxian said, Lu Jiajin was stunned. Based on this, she concluded that it was Qin Feiyang and the others who did it. This princess is too much of a child's play. End of chapter. Chapter 4481. Indeed, apart from them, I can't think of anyone else who would do such a thing. The emperor nodded in agreement. Were these little bastards really going to wreak havoc in the Central Dynasty? Previously, it was Han Zongqing, but they didn't succeed. Now, it was the families of the 9 commanders, and they didn't even leave a single one alive. How vicious and merciless. What would happen next? Would it be the emperor's turn? Since they dared to touch his family, they would be destroyed. Looking at the father and daughter, the inner demon said telepathically, it seems that I can only take the blame. It doesn't matter. They've always been the scapegoat anyway. Lu Jiajin smiled inwardly. Scapegoat. The inner demon's mouth twitched. You're too heartless. That's right. Look at them now. After they entered the Central Dynasty, even Dong Qingyuan and the others want them to take the blame. That was true. In the Central Dynasty, when many people did something bad, the first thing that came to their minds was to make Qin Feiyang and the others take the blame. First of all, Qin Feiyang and the others were the intruders. Secondly, they were lawless and could do anything. No one would suspect anything if they took the blame. Investigate. Only when we find their whereabouts and get rid of them will the Central Dynasty be at peace. I hereby announce that you are free from your punishment and go after Qin Feiyang. The emperor looked at the 9 commanders and said, yes. The 9 great commanders bowed and replied. Seeing the killing intent in the 9 commanders' eyes, the inner demons and Lu Jiajin looked at each other. It seemed that they had to find a chance to get rid of these 9 people. The Xuanwu world. No way. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were shocked when they received the inner demon's telepathic message. How could they kill so many people? You'd better tell Dong Qin to stop for a while, especially Han Zongqing. Don't go there. Lu Jiajin exhorted, and the shadow quickly dissipated. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment before putting away the voice transmission divine stone. He stood up and left the Black Tortoise world, appearing in the main hall outside. Looking at the sea lion beast king cultivating in the main hall, he asked, Did Dongqing return? No. The sea lion demon king opened his eyes and shook his head. He didn't come back? Where is she hiding now? Qin Feiyang mumbled under his breath. Returning to the black tortoise world, he took out the sound transmission divine stone and sent a message to Dongqing. A moment passed. Wang. Finally, Dongqing's phantom appeared. At this moment, she seemed to be in a hidden cave. Where are you? Qin Feiyang asked. Outside Hanzhong City. Dongqing did not hide anything. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, So, you really plan to attack Hanzhongqing? Yes. But don't worry, I haven't lost my rationality yet. I'm slowly looking for an opportunity. Otherwise, I would have already made my move on Han Zongqing the night I massacred the 9 commanders' families. Dongqing's body was full of murderous intent, and her eyes were filled with blood-red light. I'm really here to kill you. When I heard the message from the inner demons and big cousin, I still couldn't believe it. Qin Feiyang laughed. They must pay the price for this. Dongqing said coldly, I don't object to this matter. However, why didn't you tell me about such an important matter in advance? I could have asked the Sea Lion Demon King to help you. What if something happened to you? Qin Feiyang was helpless. Since Dongqing was his partner now, he had to be responsible for Dongqing. You're concerned about me? Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, Dongqing's heart throbbed inexplicably. You're our partner now. Of course, we care about you. The white-eyed wolf next to them couldn't help but roll his eyes when he heard this. Dongqing glanced at the white-eyed wolf and then looked at Qin Feiyang. Suppressing the inexplicable throbbing in her heart, Dongqing said indifferently, Don't worry about me. I'm fine. She was still not used to this kind of concern. Although Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were sincere, she was no longer willing to trust anyone after the betrayal of Dong Hanzong and Dong Qingyun. You make it sound like we're worried about you. We're afraid that you'll drag us down. The white-eyed wolf sneered. This was a typical example of being cold on the outside but warm on the inside. Hearing this, Dongqing seemed to be a little disappointed in her heart. But then again, you're really capable. I heard from Big Cousin and the inner demons that the families of the 9 great commanders didn't even know where they were hiding. But now, in just half a year, you've found them all. The white-eyed wolf said, It's different. The 9 great commanders have always regarded the inner demons and Lu Jiajin as rivals. Naturally, they wouldn't reveal any information to them. But I'm Dongqing Yuan's disciple. They didn't guard against me, so I knew a little about them before. Although I didn't know much, at least I had some clues. So, after a detailed investigation, and with my mother's help in secret, it was naturally not difficult to find out the location of their families. Dongqing said indifferently. Qin Feiyang asked, So all the people you killed this time were their families? Yes. There are rules on the Imperial Capital Mountain. Those who are not members of the Imperial Palace or the Death God Army are not allowed to stay on the Imperial Capital Mountain. Even the families of the 9 great commanders are no exception, and as commanders, they have offended many people in their lives. Although they are powerful and no one dares to seek revenge on them, as the saying goes, it's easier to dodge a spear in the open than an arrow in the dark. So, they carefully protect their families. Dongqing explained, Don't they have their own clansmen? As commanders of the Death God Army, they should have more clansmen than this, right? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Even Dong Hanzong could build a large-scale Hanzong city, let alone the 9 great commanders who often held high positions. Although on the surface, the central dynasty is full of families, in fact, there are also many rural villages. These rural villagers don't belong to any family. They are all independent existences. In your words, they are itinerant cultivators. It is said that these commanders are all such people. They don't have a strong family or background. They rely on their own hands and efforts to climb to their positions step by step. Moreover, because of the special nature of the Death God Army, they are not allowed to develop their own forces in private. So, although their status in the Central Dynasty is very high, their family's forces are not strong, Dongqing said. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf nodded in understanding. That was right. Thinking back, Even the people of the Central Dynasty were not clear about the situation of the Death God army. The creatures of the 4 great continents had never heard of it. This was because the Death God army was too special and too secretive. In short, they were killing machines cultivated by the Emperor. If they were allowed to develop their own forces, the secret of the Death God army would definitely be exposed. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while, looked at Dong Qin and said, "We don't have any plans for the time being. Why don't you come back first?" "Why should I go back?" Dong Qin was suspicious. "You have only grasped 7 of the 8 ultimate profundities of the supreme laws. Why don't you come back first and use this time to comprehend the other ultimate law?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "How can it be that easy?" Dong Qin was speechless. She felt that in this person's eyes, comprehending the ultimate laws was as simple as drinking water. "Are you stupid? It is indeed not easy to comprehend, but isn't it easy to integrate the inheritance?" The white-eyed wolf looked at this woman speechlessly. "Inheritance?" Dong Qin was slightly stunned, and her eyes suddenly lit up. She asked, "You will give me the inheritance?" "Nonsense. If we don't give you the inheritance, why did we call you back?" "You are really stupid." The white-eyed wolf rolled his eyes. "Okay, I will come back right away, and I can integrate it directly, because I have already comprehended the 8th ultimate law." After Dong Qin said that, she immediately turned off the voice transmission stone, changed her appearance, opened the space-time passage, and returned to Qingfeng City. This person is really realistic. Previously, I didn't see her intention to come back at all, but when she heard that we are going to give her the inheritance, she immediately rushed back. The white-eyed wolf shook his head. "Now, I am afraid that she is more eager to become stronger than anyone else." Qin Feiyang smiled and picked up the teacup. However, at this moment, a mysterious and terrifying aura suddenly emerged in the sky. The two immediately looked up and saw Long Qin, who was sitting cross-legged in the sky, emitting a dazzling divine light, looking as dazzling as a scorching sun. "What is going on?" The two were surprised. Long Qin also appeared at the first moment, because, ever since Long Qin grasped the will of heaven, his behavior was a little strange, so she was always paying attention to Long Qin's situation. Long Qin's aura became more and more terrifying. It almost covered half of the black tortoise realm, alarming countless creatures. Suddenly, a white barrier appeared around him, emitting a holy light. There was also a holy aura, as if a god had descended. "This is his god's domain?" The white-eyed wolf was stunned. The previous god's domain did not have such a strong aura. "It seems to be God's domain." Qin Feiyang nodded. "But why was the current God's domain so different from the previous God's domain?" "I am God, the ruler of everything." Suddenly, an ethereal voice reverberated between heaven and earth. This was Long Qin's voice. However, he did not speak, because this was his will. At this moment, Qin Feiyang and the others had an illusion that Long Qin's will seemed to be above the will of heaven, dominating the origin of heaven and earth. What's going on? The origin energy is restless. Suddenly, Little Wimp descended from the sky and looked at Long Qin in surprise. "What?" Hearing Little Wimp's words, Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other. The origin energy was restless? Was it true? Don't joke. Long Qin's god's domain was very heaven-defying, but it was not heaven-defying to the extent that it could affect the origin energy. But, looking at Little Wimp's serious eyes, it seemed that he was not lying. How could this be? God's domain suddenly became so heaven-defying? End of chapter. Chapter 4482. God's domain, dominating heaven and earth. I am God, controlling all things. The faintly discernible voice rang out once again. Following closely, under the shocked gaze of Qin Feiyang and the others, the god's domain collapsed silently, turning into pieces of crystal light that were sent into the void and the earth. Seize the fortune of heaven and earth. Reverse yin and yang. This time, Long Qin's voice was even more ethereal, as if his will had merged with heaven and earth. His voice echoed in every corner, lingering for a long time. Following this sentence, a terrifying force surged from all directions like a tide, rolling and roaring between heaven and earth. This is Qin Feiyang, White-Eyed Wolf, Little Wimp, and Long Qin all looked at this scene in disbelief. Because this force was the Black Tortoise World's rule force. It can't be. He can actually control the Black Tortoise World's rule force? Isn't this rule power something that only you and Hualien can control, little brat? White-Eyed Wolf looked at Qin Feiyang and exclaimed, "It's not that simple. Not only can he control the rule force, but he can also control the origin force." Little Wimp landed in front of the two and said in a deep voice, "What?" Both of them were dumbfounded. Controlling the Black Tortoise World's origin force? This joke was too big. As the ruler of the Black Tortoise World, even Qin Feiyang didn't have the qualifications to control its core energy. Hualien, the guardian of the Black Tortoise World, could only control the power of laws. But now, this child was telling them that Long Chun could control the Black Tortoise World's core energy? Wasn't this an international joke? I'm not joking with you. I can feel that the origin force of the Black Tortoise World is being controlled by him. Little Wimp's gaze was heavy. At this moment, facing Long Chun, he felt a great threat. Not to mention controlling the origin force, just controlling the rule force was something that would make one's scalp go numb. Boom. Suddenly, a deafening explosion resounded in the sky above. Qin Feiyang and the others raised their heads and looked over. Their faces were filled with shock as they saw a five-colored divine light emerging from the blue dome of heaven. If this wasn't the Black Tortoise World's origin energy, then what was it? It can really be controlled? When did the domain of divinity become so abnormal? Waves of shock surged in the hearts of these people. In other words, even if Long Chun was not the master of the world, he could still control the origin of the world. This was too crazy. However, at this moment, puff, suddenly, Long Chun spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned pale instantly. His god's domain, which had merged with the heavens and the earth, turned into a rain of light and dissipated. What's going on? Qin Feiyang and Li Wuyo were bewildered. Brother, Long Qin's expression changed. He quickly flew to Long Chin's side, his face full of worry. At this moment, Long Chin finally opened his eyes. There was a trace of weakness in his eyes. What happened to you? Seeing this, Long Qin asked with concern. It's nothing. I overestimated myself and tried to control the Black Tortoise World's origin energy. I suffered a backlash. Long Qin smiled bitterly and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He looked at his most beloved sister and comforted her. I'm fine. Don't worry. That's good. Long Qin breathed a sigh of relief. Long Chun looked at the disappearing origin energy in the sky and muttered, "The effect of this epiphany is not bad, but I still need to work harder." After that, he took a deep breath and lowered his head to look at Qin Feiyang. White-Eyed Wolf, little brat. I'm sorry, I couldn't hold it in. I hope I didn't scare you. He stepped in front of Qin Feiyang and the others and smiled apologetically. It's more than a scare. White-Eyed Wolf snorted and said, You have to compensate us for the mental damage. Haha. Long Chin laughed heartily and seemed to be in a good mood. He swallowed a healing pill and looked at Little Brat. I'm sorry, without your permission, I tried to control the Black Tortoise World's origin energy. Little Brat was silent and stared at Long Chun. There seemed to be a trace of killing intent in his eyes. This little brat. Don't tell me he wants to kill Long Chun. White-Eyed Wolf said telepathically. Looking at him, he seems to feel threatened. But it's really scary. Qin Feiyang thought to himself. Controlling the rule force and origin energy, this kind of method was unheard of. Using the word heaven-defying was not enough to describe it. Long Chun also felt Little Brat's killing intent and quickly smiled. Don't worry, without your permission, I won't do this again. Little Brat still did not say a word. You little brat, are you interested? Now that we're on the same boat, the stronger my big brother is, the more help he will be to us. Don't tell me you still want to kill a genius? Long Qin stared at Little Brat angrily. Little Brat looked at Long Qin, then looked at Long Chun, then left without saying a word. A silent person is indeed a little scary, White-Eyed Wolf muttered. Although little brat was like a porcelain doll, anyone who understood him would not dare to be presumptuous. Long Chun also breathed a sigh of relief. Sit. Qin Feiyang smiled. The four of them walked to the stone table and sat down. Qin Feiyang poured a cup of tea and handed it to Long Chun, saying, "Tell me, what happened?" Long Chun took a sip of tea and smiled faintly. "It's just a coincidence. When I grasped the will of heaven, a light suddenly flashed in my mind. At that time, I had a very real feeling that my domain of divinity might be evolving." Evolving? Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other. The current domain of divinity was the result of evolution? So at that time, I began to comprehend. I didn't expect it to really succeed. The current domain of divinity is completely different from the previous domain of divinity. Long Chun smiled. How powerful is it? White-Eyed Wolf was curious. As you have seen before, the current domain of divinity can be merged with heaven and earth. After the fusion, the entire heaven and earth will become my domain. And now, not only can the domain of divinity interfere with the rule force, but it can also control the world's rule force. Even the origin force can be interfered with. Long Chun said, "So ridiculous?" In other words, not only the black tortoise world, you can control the rule force of other worlds. Qin Feiyang was surprised. Yes. Long Chun nodded. F***ck, this is too abnormal. White-Eyed Wolf's mouth twitched. Wait. But suddenly, White-Eyed Wolf was stunned and said, "Since you can control the rule force, can you break the restrictions of the Kuanping Sea region and the Taboo Sea region?" "I haven't tried yet, but it should be possible," Long Chun said. White-Eyed Wolf gritted his teeth and said, "Then won't it be convenient for us to return to the four great continents?" "How can it be so simple? We have to break the barrier formed by the origin force to return to the four great continents." Qin Feiyang shook his head. Long Qin was puzzled and said, "Then what's the matter with interfering with the origin force?" "Because the domain of divinity hasn't reached the strength to control the origin force. As you have seen before, if I forcibly control the origin force, not only will I fail, but I will also suffer a backlash. So now, I can only interfere slightly. To be more specific, if we encounter an enemy who has the origin force in the future, I can interfere so that it won't be so easy for them to control the origin force to kill us," Long Chun explained. "This is also very abnormal." White-Eyed Wolf was stunned. This was the same as interfering with the rule power. Long Qin asked, "In other words, your domain of divinity may evolve in the future, and at that time, you will be able to truly control the origin force?" "It's indeed possible. However, it's also possible that it won't have the chance to evolve in its lifetime. After all, this kind of thing depends on luck. It can't be forced." Long Chun didn't take it too hard. He didn't have any regrets, nor was he depressed. There was a saying that didn't go like this: contentment brings joy. If one was insatiable, one would fall into the abyss of desire step by step, and eventually become a puppet controlled by desire. Well, I've learned. No wonder that brat wanted to kill you. If your domain of divinity were to be leaked, I'm afraid that not only the brat, but also the rulers of the world, big and small, would definitely come to kill you. Because your current threat is no longer to an individual, but to the entire world. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. "What about you?" Long Chun asked with a smile. What he wanted to know the most was Qin Feiyang's attitude. "Me?" Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback, and then smiled. "Let's put it this way, before you make a move on me, I will never make a move on you first." Haha, Long Chun laughed heartily. This friend was indeed not a waste of time. Now that Dong Qin has become our partner, our strength is getting stronger and stronger. I believe that we will definitely destroy the Central Dynasty and defeat the ruler of the Divine Kingdom. Qin Feiyang's eyebrows were brimming with unprecedented confidence. The confidence he showed before was mostly to appease everyone, because if even he didn't have confidence, how could others have confidence? Therefore, he had to stand up bravely. But at this moment, his confidence was genuine, without the slightest bit of pretense. Dong Qin, Long Chun was taken aback and said in surprise, "Why would she be willing to follow us? It's a bit complicated. Let's talk over tea. Let me congratulate you first." Qin Feiyong picked up the teacup, replacing wine with tea, and gently touched Long Qin's teacup. Although the evolution of the god's domain posed a threat to the ruler of the world, for Qin Feiyong, this was a good thing that was inspiring and morale-boosting. Soon, Dong Qin finally came back. Seeing Long Chun come out, she didn't feel anything, because they weren't familiar with each other. And now, she didn't want to care about other things. Similarly, she didn't know for the time being how heaven-defying the god's domain was after the evolution. After chatting for a while, Qin Feiyong gave her an inheritance. She didn't say anything and directly turned away to find a place to integrate the inheritance. After going through a big change, she has indeed become different from before. Long Chun looked at Dong Qin's back and sighed. However, he really had to thank Dong Qingyuan and Dong Hanzong for their betrayal. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to persuade Dong Qin, because she was a very stubborn woman. End of this chapter. Chapter 4483. It's inevitable for a person's personality to change. Apart from Dong Qingyuan and Dong Hanzong, the 9 commanders have already paid the price. Previously, when Inner Demon and Big Cousin sent us a message, they said that the 9 of them almost broke down in the Imperial Palace. Qin Feiyong smiled. Imperial Palace? Long Chun was stunned. It's where the Emperor lives. Qin Feiyong explained. Do I need you to solve this? Long Chun looked at Qin Feiyong speechlessly. Did he think he was stupid? He didn't even know the meaning of the Imperial Palace. What I want to ask is, why are the Inner Demons and Lu Jiajin in the Imperial Palace? A lot of things happened while you were in seclusion. The 2 of them have now taken over the 10th Squad as the commander and vice commander. So basically, they will be present for all the big and small matters in the Central Dynasty. Qin Feiyong smiled. Decisive. You have some means. Long Chun shook his head and laughed. He had sneaked into the Death God army so quickly and even became the commander and vice commander of the 10th Squad. This way, it would be much more convenient for them to gather information with the power in their hands. There's one more thing. They want us to think of a way to get rid of the 9 commanders. Because the 9 commanders don't know that it was Dong Qin who killed their relatives, they think it was us. Now, they hate us to the core. Getting rid of them as soon as possible will not only prevent a disaster, but also weaken the Central Dynasty's strength, Qin Feiyong said. Get rid of the 9 commanders, Long Chun murmured. Suddenly, a smile appeared on his face. He looked at Qin Feiyong and said, I'll give it a try. I want to use them to practice. Brother, don't be arrogant. Although your domain of divinity has evolved, the 9 commanders are in the Imperial Capital Mountain. The Imperial Capital Mountain is the most sacred place in the Central Dynasty. Aren't you courting death by going there alone? Long Qin's expression changed as he hurriedly advised. How could a place like the Imperial Capital Mountain be shaken by the strength of a single person? This brother of his was a little arrogant. Don't worry. When have I ever been reckless? I will do my best. Long Qin chuckled. This little girl didn't even trust him now. Seeing that his persuasion was futile, Long Qin could not help but look at Qin Feiyong for help. The white-eyed wolf. It's useless to look at us. Can we control your brother? The white-eyed wolf shrugged. Be careful. Don't force yourself. Of course, it's best not to get angry about your identity for now. When there's a chance in the future, you can give them a surprise. Qin Feiyong ignored Long Qin's gaze and looked at Long Chun. All right. Long Qin nodded and swallowed an illusory form pill. Then, he changed his appearance into a valiant middle-aged man. Qin Feiyong gave a few more instructions and then waved his hand, sending Long Chun out of the Black Tortoise realm. As for the content of the instructions, it was nothing more than going to find Ji Xiaowu to get the order of worship so that he could leave Green Wind City unimpeded. Long Qin angrily glared at Qin Feiyong and said angrily, You're just jealous of my brother's talent. You want him to go to the Imperial Capital Mountain to die on purpose. You're crazy. The white-eyed wolf glanced at her indifferently, then got up and strode away to continue fusing the inheritance. What did you say? Say it again. Longqin angrily glared at the white-eyed wolf's back. Your Longqin's sister. You actually know him so well? Can others persuade him to do something he's decided on? Moreover, don't you know his strength and mind? If you have the time to worry about him, why don't you worry about the imperial capital mountain? Who knows what will happen to it? Qin Feiyang shook his head. Am I crazy? I'm worried about the imperial capital mountain. Longqin rolled her eyes. That's right. Your brother is a person who knows his limits. He knows what he can do and what he can't do. Don't worry too much. Besides, he can send us a message to ask for help at any time. Hurry up and go cultivate. Don't waste time. Now, Qin Feiyang faced Longqin with a big brother tone and attitude. It's none of your business. Longqin proudly raised her head, snorted through her nose, and turned to leave. This girl. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. But when he was about to return to the castle to continue his seclusion, the little brat suddenly appeared again, looking troubled. Are you still troubled by this problem? Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. This is controlling the power of rules and the power of origin. How can I not be troubled? The little brat glared at him. What a thick-skinned guy. Longqin could control the power of rules and the power of origin of the Black Tortoise realm, but he was still so calm. Are you still the ruler of the Black Tortoise realm? Don't you realize the seriousness of the problem? Didn't he say just now that he can only control the power of rules and not the power of origin? He can only interfere. Qin Feiyang smiled. You think just interfering with the power of origin is a small matter? Let me tell you, there's nothing more important than this. But, speaking of this, the little brat's eyes revealed a trace of a sneer. Staring at Qin Feiyang, he said, I have a good solution. You don't want me to assassinate him, do you? Let me tell you, that's absolutely not possible. All these years, it's all because of him that we can obtain so many ultimate laws inheritance. If I were to assassinate him, wouldn't I be an ungrateful person? Qin Feiyang hurriedly shook his head. Get lost. Am I as filthy and despicable as you say? The little brat glared at him. More or less. Qin Feiyang muttered. What are you muttering about? Believe it or not, I will teach you a lesson. The little brat's face darkened. Was his image that bad? How could he be associated with filthy and despicable? Don't. A gentleman uses his mouth and not his fists. Qin Feiyang smiled. Although he now mastered the law of life and death, 3,000 incarnations, dual heavenly Tao wills, and the eye of heaven, to be honest, he really didn't have the confidence to face this little brat, because the power of origin of the Black Tortoise realm was an unsolvable problem. Let me tell you, my idea is absolutely feasible. As long as it succeeds, even if his god's domain evolves again, it won't pose a threat to us. The little brat smirked. Tell me about it. Since he had already said so, it was still worth looking forward to. Doesn't Longqin like Wolf Cub? Hurry up and matchmake them. As long as Wolf Cub can settle Longqin, then Long Chun will be Wolf Cub's brother-in-law. In this way, won't we be a family? The little brat bared his teeth. Qin Feiyang was stunned. After looking forward to it for so long, it turned out to be such a bad idea. The little brat said, You don't have to care whether it's a bad idea or a good idea. Just tell me, is my idea reliable? Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered for a while, then nodded and said, It's reliable, but now, the white-eyed wolf is deliberately avoiding Longqin. Moreover, there's still Fire Dance. These are all problems. It's all a small problem. The little brat waved his hand with a look of indifference. Qin Feiyang pondered. Last time, he had talked to Longqin about finding a time to test the white-eyed wolf's feelings for her, but he hadn't found a suitable opportunity. Now that he looked at it, shouldn't he speed up the progress? The little brat's eyes flashed slightly, and he said with a sly smile, If we really want to test their feelings, I think we should let Fire Dance go with them. What? Let Fire Dance go with them? Qin Feiyang looked at the little brat in shock. With Fire Dance present, how could he test it? You already have a wife, and you don't even understand this? The little brat looked at Qin Feiyong with disdain. Qin Feiyong's mouth twitched. You're just a little brat who hasn't even grown hair. What right do you have to look down on me? You're not convinced? Let me tell you, let Fire Dance go with them, go through hardships together, and witness Long Qin's feelings for the white-eyed wolf with her own eyes. At that time, she might be directly touched by Long Qin. On the contrary, if we wait for the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin to be honest and admit their feelings for each other, and then tell Fire Dance, then Fire Dance won't be mentally prepared at all. What do you think the result will be? There's no need to think about it. She'll definitely reject and oppose it. She might even leave in a fit of anger and hate the white-eyed wolf. This kind of hatred may be a matter of a lifetime, the little brat analyzed. When Qin Feiyong heard this, he felt that it made sense. The three of them went through storms and tribulations together. Not only could it deepen the relationship between Long Qin and the white-eyed wolf, it could also deepen the relationship between the two women at the same time, and give Fire Dance a process of adaptation and acceptance. Then, Qin Feiyong looked at the little brat strangely. Why are you looking at me? The little brat was suspicious. I really didn't expect that a little brat like you would know so many things. He couldn't help but suspect that under the little brat's young appearance, there was an old antique soul hidden. Of course, I'm not bragging. When it comes to men and women, I can kill 10 of you in a second. The little brat smiled proudly and was very proud. Qin Feiyong's mouth twitched. He really couldn't praise him. Once he praised him, he would want to go to heaven. Do you agree with my suggestion? The little brat asked. Agree. However, now is not the time. After all, we are in the Central Dynasty and danger is everywhere. We have to wait for Fire Dance to master the will of heaven before we can let them out. Qin Feiyong said. Okay, you can arrange this kind of thing yourself. I only have one condition. Only success, no failure. Little Wimp laughed mischievously, then soared into the sky and left without looking back. Only success, no failure? Qin Feiyong was speechless. He even said that he understood the relationship between men and women very well. Didn't he know that feelings were the most variable? Who could guarantee that it would succeed? Damned wolf cub, for the sake of your marriage, I've really worried myself to death. Qin Feiyong shook his head and sighed. He got up and tidied up the tea set on the table and returned to the castle to continue comprehending the laws and fusing the inheritance. At the same time, outside, City Lord's mansion, Ji Xiaowu stood in the courtyard, watching the back of a departing figure outside the courtyard. His eyes were filled with awe. This figure was Long Chun. As for Long Chun, he naturally recognized him. Qin Feiyong had given him an ultimate profundity, and it was Long Chun who had helped him steal it. He was also an existence that caused others to tremble in fear. No, to be exact, this person was more terrifying than Qin Feiyong, Mad Manimo, and Golden Wing Wolf King, because he had the means to take away others' ultimate profound. End of this chapter. Chapter 4484. Imperial Capital Mountain. The black-haired old man whose body was destroyed by the inner demons was sitting cross-legged under the stone tablet, rebuilding his body. Below him, there was an invisible time array. Whoosh! Suddenly, a burly figure descended above the entrance of the Imperial Capital Mountain. The black-haired old man opened his eyes suspiciously and looked up. He saw an unfamiliar burly man standing in the sky. The aura and pressure he exuded weren't very strong. What an unfamiliar aura! The black-haired old man murmured and asked, Who are you? What business do you have with my supreme mountain? Now, he was very low-key and couldn't find the arrogance he had when he first met Dong Yulan, because he was afraid that he would accidentally kick an iron plate. The burly man smiled and said, I'm just a nobody, not worth mentioning. A nobody? The black-haired old man was slightly stunned. He sized up the burly man and indeed didn't have any impression of him, but he still didn't dare to be presumptuous. As the saying goes, once bitten, twice shy. What happened last time had already left a shadow in his heart. So now, Even if he saw an unfamiliar face that he didn't have any impression of, he didn't dare to be careless. The burly man said, "I have something to ask the 9 commanders. I hope you can inform them." Asked to see the 9 commanders? The black-haired old man couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. As long as it wasn't Lu Yuntian or Lu Yunfeng's people, it was fine. He asked suspiciously, "You have something to ask the 9 commanders?" "Yes. I know. The murderer of their family." The burly man nodded. Hearing this, the black-haired old man's eyes trembled. This was really shocking news. He asked, "Who is the murderer? It can't really be Qin Fei Yang and the others, right?" "I won't say a word without seeing the 9 commanders." The burly man shook his head. The black-haired old man looked at the burly man for a moment and said, "Wait for me here. I'll go inform them now." "Thank you." The burly man cupped his hands and smiled. After the black-haired old man got up and left, the burly man curiously sized up the Imperial Capital Mountain. The Imperial Capital Mountain was formed by many giant peaks. In the mountains, clouds and mist lingered as auspicious beasts galloped. There were magnificent palaces and classical and elegant pavilions. Some of them were situated at the peak of the mountain, while others were situated halfway up the mountain. Dense mist rose from them, and when looked at from afar, they were like immortal palaces. "I don't know if I can break through the barrier here with my current godly domain and enter the Imperial Capital Mountain directly." That was right. He was Long Chun. Imperial Capital Mountain was the most sacred place in the Central Dynasty. Everyone knew about it, so anyone could easily find out where it was. He really did come to Imperial Capital Mountain. No one would believe it if he said it out loud. Wong. Suddenly, below, a space-time tunnel appeared. Long Chun looked down and saw a graceful figure walking out of the space-time tunnel. There's such a beauty in the Central Dynasty. Even Long Chun couldn't help but feel amazed at this moment. The woman was none other than Princess Yuxian. Her long dress was spotless, and her long hair was soft and beautiful. Her skin was as smooth as jade, sparkling with light. She was like an immortal that had descended to the mortal world. Just one look at her would be unforgettable. Princess Yuxian was about to enter the Imperial Capital Mountain when she suddenly noticed Long Chun in the air. She was slightly stunned and asked suspiciously, "Who are you? Why are you standing at the entrance of the Imperial Capital Mountain? And who are you? Why should I answer your question?" Long Chun said lightly. "So arrogant?" Princess Yuxian was slightly stunned. A sly look flashed in her eyes as she said, "I'm a little maid of the Imperial Capital Mountain. Are you meeting someone? Do you want me to pass the message?" "Little maid?" Long Chun looked at Princess Yuxian in shock. How could a little maid have such an aura? How could a little maid wear such a luxurious and noble dress? Although he didn't know anyone from the Imperial Capital Mountain, there was no need to treat him like an idiot. He ignored Princess Yuxian and continued to look at the Imperial Capital Mountain. Looking at Long Chen's attitude, Princess Yuxian was instantly displeased. As the daughter of the emperor and the princess of the Central Dynasty, no one had ever dared to ignore her like this. She waved at Long Chun and said, "Come down." Long Chun turned a deaf ear to her. Although Princess Yuxian was very beautiful, he didn't feel anything about her. Other than her noble aura, she was no different from any other woman. This was because he understood that no matter how beautiful a woman was, she would become a pink skeleton after death. Seeing this, Princess Yuxian was getting angrier and angrier. She said angrily, "I order you to come down." When Long Chen heard this, he immediately had an answer in his heart. This woman must be the descendant of some big shot in the Imperial Capital Mountain. Because he had never seen Princess Yuxian before, and Qin Fei Yang and the others didn't mention this woman in the Black Tortoise world, he didn't know that this woman in front of him was the Emperor's beloved daughter. However, he still didn't move. Although he looked very ordinary after changing his appearance, his natural talent couldn't be hidden. "How dare you?" Princess Yuxian was surprised. Was there really someone in the Central Dynasty who dared to ignore her? It seemed like this person really didn't know her identity. Otherwise, he would have knelt in front of her like a dog, trying to curry favor with her. Whoosh! At this moment, 10 figures shot through the air like lightning. It was the black-haired old man, Dong Yuerong, and the other commanders. At this moment, Dong Yuerong and the other commanders were very anxious as they stared at the entrance of the imperial capital mountain. "It's him," the black-haired old man said as he pointed at Long Chun. The 9 commanders immediately stared at Long Chun, but then they looked at Princess Yuxian below. What's going on? Why is Princess Yuxian here? Could it be that this so-called nobody knows Princess Yuxian? The black-haired old man was shocked. It can't be. Is he really a piece of metal? At this moment, his mind was filled with thoughts. If Long Chun knew about this, he would be impressed by his imagination. After a few breaths, the 10 commanders finally flew out of the imperial capital mountain and landed in front of Princess Yuxian. They bowed and said, "Greetings, Princess Yuxian." "Princess?" Long Chun was stunned. The so-called princess must be the emperor's daughter. He did not expect to meet the emperor's daughter on his first trip to the imperial capital mountain. Yes. Princess Yuxian nodded and looked at Long Chun. Now that he knew her identity, he should be trying to curry favor with her. Unfortunately, she was disappointed because she did not see what she wanted to see in Long Chun's eyes. Neither did he try to curry favor with her. What's going on? Princess Yuxian was puzzled. Is he an emotionless person? Because no one would be able to remain so calm after knowing her identity. The black-haired old man asked carefully, "Princess, do you know this person?" "No, I don't. I was just curious when I saw him standing here like a block of wood." Princess Yuxian shook her head. She heard about it. The black-haired old man heaved a sigh of relief. Princess Yuxian asked suspiciously, "Why did he come to the imperial capital mountain?" The black-haired old man said truthfully, "He said he knows the real murderer who killed the commanders' families." What? Princess Yuxian was shocked. She looked at Long Chun and asked, "Who is the real murderer?" The 9 commanders also glared at Long Chun, killing intent surging out of their eyes. Long Chun looked at them with a hint of mockery in his eyes and said, "I can tell you, but what benefits can you give me?" "Benefits?" The black-haired old man was stunned and suddenly understood. No wonder he would only tell them after meeting the commanders. He wanted to take the opportunity to ask for benefits from the commanders. However, wasn't this person too irrational? One must know. The person standing in front of him was Princess Yuxian, who gave him the courage to ask for benefits from Princess Yuxian. Long Chun smiled and said, "I can't tell you for no reason." The commanders clenched their fists. What a reckless person. Not to mention the Moon Fairy Princess, even the 9 great commanders couldn't stand such blatant extortion. If not for Princess Yuxian's presence, they would have already taken Long Chun down. "What do you want?" Princess Yuxian took a deep breath and asked Long Chun. Long Chun coughed and said with a smile, 10 ultimate laws and a pinnacle dominator divine weapon." What? The commanders and the black-haired old man were stunned. 10 ultimate profundities of the strongest laws and a pinnacle dominator divine weapon? What a joke. Even the commanders did not have a pinnacle dominator divine weapon. He was asking for too much. Dong Qian said in a deep voice, "Do you know who you are negotiating with?" "Of course. The 9 commanders of the Death God Army and the Emperor's daughter." "So what? I give you the information and you give me the reward. It's only right. Do I have to tell you for free just because you have a high status?" Long Chen's lips curled into a mocking smile. "You're courting death. How dare you offend Her Highness?" The black-haired old man was enraged and shouted at Long Chun. "Even the princess has to be reasonable." Long Chun chuckled and was unmoved. "You have guts." Princess Yuxian nodded and smiled. She looked at Long Chun and said, "I don't have a pinnacle dominator divine weapon and 10 inheritances are too much. I can agree to give you 2 inheritances. Are you trying to dismiss a beggar? It seems like you are not sincere. If that's the case, then I'm sorry. Goodbye." After saying that, he turned and left. Whoosh! The moment he turned, the 9 commanders moved and surrounded Long Chun. They surrounded Long Chun. Long Chun raised his eyebrows and looked at the 9 commanders. "You want to beat me into a confession?" The 9 commanders were furious. If it wasn't for Princess Yuxian, they would have killed him. They said, "We are all reasonable people. Why would we beat you up?" However, 10 inheritances are too much. How about this? We will give you 5 inheritances. 5 inheritances? Long Chun was slightly stunned. He shook his head and sneered. Interesting. The 9 commanders of the Death God army can't even get 9 inheritances. Don't go overboard. The 9 commanders' eyes darkened. The Central Dynasty did have inheritances, but they were not in charge of them. In other words, they had no right to control them. The only one who could control them was the emperor. In short, without the emperor's permission, even if the inheritances were in front of them, they would not dare to touch them. End of chapter. Chapter 4485. 5 legacies is too much. How about this? I don't want the Pinnacle Dominator divine weapon, but I want the 10 ultimate law inheritances, not one less. Long Chen looked at the 9 of them and said, the 9 of them were furious. Why couldn't they persuade her? What kind of place was this? Even if they gave her 10 legacies, would she be able to take them away? Okay, as long as your answer satisfies me, I can give you 10 legacies. Princess Moon Fairy's voice suddenly sounded. Your Highness, the 9 of them and the black-haired old man looked at Princess Moon Fairy in disbelief. She actually agreed to this person's request? It's useless to talk. You have to give me the legacies before I can tell you. Long Chan lowered his head and looked at Princess Moon Fairy. Don't go overboard. Princess Moon Fairy is the apple of the Emperor's eye. Why would she lie to you? The black-haired old man standing beside Princess Moon Fairy shouted angrily. Who knows? Long Chun pursed his lips. I'm a princess. Am I not worthy of your trust? Looking at Long Chin's attitude, Princess Moon Fairy was also angry. It's hard to know what's in a person's heart. Long Chin laughed. In fact, he wanted to send Princess Moon Fairy away on purpose. Because the Moon Fairy princess was the daughter of the Emperor, she might have some trump cards on her. If they were to make a move later, with this woman present, there might be some variables. For example, the origin energy. Although he could interfere with the origin energy now, it was still the Divine Kingdom's origin energy. The Divine Kingdom's origin energy was much stronger than the Black Tortoise World's origin energy. Therefore, he didn't dare to take the risk. Okay, wait here. I'll go get the legacies now. But remember, if I find out that you're lying to us, you'll be destroyed. Princess Moon Fairy laughed angrily. She turned around and entered the Imperial Capital Mountain. She didn't even look back. The 9 great commanders and Princess Yuxian looked at the departing figure and exchanged glances. Their eyes were filled with killing intent at the same time. They were actually waiting for Princess Yuxian to leave, because as long as Princess Yuxian left, they would be able to attack without restraint. What do you want? I'm telling you all, do not act recklessly. Right now, I am the only one who knows who killed your family. Still, the princess told us to wait for her here. If you kill me, the princess won't let you off easily. Long Chun revealed a timid expression as he looked at the 9 commanders. Now you know fear? Unfortunately, it's too late. Reckless fool. How dare you blackmail us? You're not telling me? It doesn't matter. As long as we capture you, we have 10,000 ways to make you talk. As for your highness, when she asks later, we'll say that you started it. Of course, you can also defend yourself. But do you think her highness will trust us or you, a stranger? The 9 people sneered. The black-haired old man was also gloating. How dare you blackmail the 9 great commanders? Do you think you're Lu Yuntian and Lu Yunfeng? Looking at the 10 of them, Long Chun was extremely flustered. Attack. Don't let him self-destruct, and don't give him a chance to destroy his divine soul. Dong Haitian shouted. Boom. In the next moment, the 9 people's aura erupted as they charged toward Long Chen. With their strength, killing an ordinary person was nothing more than a piece of cake. Moreover, the 9 of them were working together. Hence, they never thought that they would fail. But at this moment, Long Chen's lips curled up slightly. The timid and panicky expression that he showed earlier vanished instantly. Boom. In the next moment, the god's domain appeared. Long Chun, who stood in the god's domain, was like a god that controlled everything. His aura was completely different from before. What is this? The 9 people were stunned. Without hesitation, they threw a punch at the god's domain. I am God, the ruler of everything, Long Chun said. His voice resounded in all directions. However, the god's domain did not collapse, nor did it merge with the world. It still maintained its original appearance. However, when the 9 people's fists landed on the god's domain, they felt as though they had landed on a ball of cotton. All of their strength was easily dissipated. How is this possible? The 9 people were shocked. This must be a dream. The black-haired old man rubbed his eyes hard. His face was filled with disbelief. You still don't know that you're about to die. How foolish. Long Chun smiled disdainfully. He took a step forward and instantly landed in front of the 9 people. The god's domain enveloped the 9 people. What the hell is this? The 9 people were shocked to find that they were unable to activate their ultimacy at this moment. For an expert with the will of heaven, it was a terrifying thing to be unable to activate their ultimacy when facing an enemy. This meant that no matter how many ultimacies you had, no matter how strong you were, you would be like a cripple without any ability to fight back. Destroy all of you. Long Chin's eyes flashed with killing intent. The 6 ultimacies roared out as the will of heaven erupted. What? He has also mastered the will of heaven. The black-haired old man and the 9 commanders were shocked. The black-haired old man made a prompt decision and fled towards the entrance of the Imperial Capital Mountain. As long as he entered the Imperial Capital Mountain, he would be fine. The 9 commanders also wanted to escape from the god's domain. However, Long Chun did not give them the chance to do so. The god's domain instantly expanded. Not only did it trap the 9 commanders, but it also enveloped the black-haired old man who was about to escape into the Imperial Capital Mountain. No, who are you? The 10 people screamed in despair. Me. Then remember my name, Long Chun? Long Chun smiled faintly. As his voice fell, the 6 ultimacies carried the will of heaven and attacked. It's you. No, I don't want to die. The 10 people roared, shocking everyone. Whoosh. Figures flew out from the Imperial Capital Mountain. They stood in the air and looked at the exit in shock. What was going on? Were those the screams of the 9 commanders? Who was so daring to come to the Imperial Capital Mountain to kill them? Immediately, these people rushed towards the exit with murderous intent. The first to arrive was the Moon Fairy Princess. When the battle broke out, she realized that something was wrong and immediately returned. However, when she returned, she only saw blood floating in the air. Long Chun had already disappeared. Princess, what's going on? The others arrived one after another. Among them were the inner demons, Lu Jiajin, Dong Hanzong, and Dong Qingyuan. Looking at the shattered ground and the blood that was splattering in the air, their faces were filled with shock and anger. Someone killed the 9 commanders and the guards here. The Moon Fairy Princess clenched her fists. Her eyes were extremely cold. Who dared to come to the Imperial Capital Mountain to kill people? Moreover, the 9 commanders were killed. This was undoubtedly a blatant provocation of the Imperial Capital Mountain. What? They were killed so quickly? How is that possible? The 9 commanders all have the will of heaven. Even if the other party has the will of heaven, it shouldn't be so fast. The faces of everyone present were filled with disbelief. Could it be little cousin? No, this isn't his style. He wouldn't take the risk now. If it isn't little cousin, then who could it be? The mysterious young man? But this isn't his style either. Could it be the white-eyed wolf and the lunatic? That's not right either. The lunatic is now in the Myriad Demons Valley. The white-eyed wolf, based on his style, he would definitely show off after killing the 9 commanders before leaving. What's going on? The inner demons and Lu Jiajin were very confused at this moment. Princess, this must be the doing of Qin Feiyang and the others. Suddenly, an angry roar sounded. The inner demons and Dong Qingyuan looked up and saw Dong Qingyuan looking like he was about to eat someone. That's right. It must be them. I really can't think of anyone else in the Central Dynasty who would have the guts to come to the Imperial Capital Mountain and kill people. The others also nodded in agreement. Princess Yu Xian's eyes flashed coldly. She suddenly looked at the inner demons and asked, "What do you think?" Lu Jiajin pretended to ponder for a while and said, "First, the families of the 9 commanders were killed. Now, they were killed. I think it must be the doing of Qin Feiyang and the others. Hee. Maybe it's because these 9 pieces of trash have offended too many people. For example, it's possible that it's some ambitious person." The inner demons bared his teeth and glanced at Dong Hanzong. "Why are you looking at me? Do you think it's me?" Dong Hanzong said angrily. "I didn't say that. I just said that it's possible. So don't confess without being pressed." The inner demons laughed. "You?" Dong Hanzong glared at the inner demons. "It can't be Dong Hanzong. He's been with me all this time." Dong Qingyuan said, "Old thing, I didn't take the initiative to target you. Why did you bump into me?" The inner demon sneered and said meaningfully, "Then, is it possible that the 9 commanders know too many secrets of someone, so that person wants to silence them?" "You bastard! What are you talking about? Who are you talking about?" Dong Qingyuan shouted angrily. How dare they shift the blame to him? "I'm talking about someone, but I didn't mention his name. Is it really you? How can you do this? They are your confidants. They are loyal to you. No matter how many secrets they know, they won't betray you. Sigh. They worked so hard for you for so many years, but in the end, their families are ruined. It's really disappointing." The inner demons shook his head and sighed. He said it as if it was true. Dong Qingyuan was trembling with anger. "Enough. They're already at your doorstep. Why are you still causing trouble?" Princess Yuxian glared at them, her face full of anger. "Princess, it's not us who want to cause trouble. It's someone who wronged us in the imperial palace, saying that we're the real culprits who killed the 9 commanders' families. Right now, I merely want them to have a taste of what it is like to be wrongly accused." The inner demons sneered. Dong Hanzong and Dong Qingyuan's faces darkened when they heard this. The so-called someone was obviously talking about them. End of chapter. Chapter 4486. While the inner demons were targeting Dong Hanzong and Dong Qingyuan, in the sky above Hanzong City, buzz, a space-time tunnel appeared. This space-time tunnel was not concealed. In an instant, many people noticed the space-time tunnel, especially the members of the Death God Army who were hiding in the city. Their eyes were fixed on the space-time tunnel. Although Qin Feiyang and the others had not appeared for a long time, none of the members of the Death God Army dared to relax. Thud. One by one, footsteps came from the space-time tunnel. These footsteps were very ethereal, as if containing a magical power, causing the heartbeat of everyone in the city to uncontrollably follow the frequency of the footsteps. Moreover, these footsteps could be described as weak. If one did not listen carefully, they would not be able to hear it. However, for some reason, such weak footsteps could clearly enter everyone's ears. At first, only a small number of people noticed the space-time tunnel in the sky, but with the sound of footsteps, almost everyone in the city could not help but look up at the space-time tunnel. Just the sound of footsteps could cause their heartbeat to accelerate. What kind of expert had come to Hanzong City? Finally, a burly man walked out of the space-time tunnel. That's right, it was Long Chun. Hanzong City. Dongqin, you won't blame me for being nosy, right? Glancing at Hanzong City, Long Chun murmured in his heart, and then a smile appeared on his face. The god's domain opened again. Boom. The next moment, the god's domain dissipated in the void and merged with heaven and earth. It seems like he has ill intentions. The members of the Death God Army who were hiding in the dark felt the fluctuation of the heaven and earth law, and their faces suddenly sank. No longer hiding their whereabouts, they shouted, "Who are you? What do you want?" Long Chun looked at the members of the Death God Army. There were a total of more than a dozen people. "You guys really put in a lot of effort. Seeing that you guys are working so hard, I'll set you free." Long Chun smiled faintly. Boundless power of the natural order suddenly surged out in this world. What? He can actually control the power of the heaven and earth law? The faces of the members of the Death God Army suddenly changed. What kind of amazing means was this? This was too ridiculous. Could this person be the guardian of the divine kingdom? However, they had never heard of any guardians in the divine kingdom. Destroy them all. Long Chun was like a monarch, announcing the end of Han Zongqing. As his voice fell, endless rule power flooded the city below. Don't be impudent. The members of the Death God army roared, wanting to activate their ultimate intent. However, in the next moment, their bodies stiffened, and their faces were filled with bewilderment. What's going on? Why couldn't he unlock the ultimate profound? It was as if the power of laws in his body had been sealed by a mysterious power. They tried again, but they still couldn't open it. What's going on? Run. Quickly inform His Majesty and ask him to bring reinforcements. The dozen or so members were terrified. They looked at the crowd around them, who were also in a state of panic, and roared. This world has already become my domain. As long as you are in my domain, no one will be able to escape, Long Chun said faintly. His voice wasn't very loud, but it reverberated in everyone's mind, making them feel despair. The next moment, a scene that truly made them despair appeared. A surge of rule force emerged around each of them. These rule energies were like numerous large invisible hands, firmly binding them. Not to mention escaping, they could not even move a single step. Why is this happening? What the hell did he do? More than a dozen members of the Death God army had reached the point where they were scared out of their wits. Even the Emperor couldn't do such a thing. Who the hell is this person? No. In the face of the frenzied nomological power, everyone in the city couldn't help but roar in despair. However, it was meaningless. The rule power mercilessly killed. Ah! Cries of agony echoed in the sky. The current Han Zongqing was like a hell on earth. About a dozen breaths passed. Everything finally came to an end. At this time, Han Zongqing was in tatters and a mess. On the ground, blood flowed like a sea of blood. It was a shocking sight. Sigh. Looking at this scene, Long Chun sighed deeply. This was really not his intention. Such a cruel and bloody scene was not what he wanted to see. But there were some things that he had to do. Because now, if he didn't do this, more people might die in the future. I hope this is the last massacre. He sighed. With a wave of his hand, the blood on the ground surged into the sky one by one, gradually condensing into lines of big words in the void. In the end, he glanced at these big words and turned to leave. What? Han Zongqing was massacred? Imperial Mountain. Princess Yuxian, Dong Hanzong, Dong Qingyuan, Inner Demons, and Lu Jiajin also received this news very quickly. Their faces were full of horror. How long had it been? Han Zongqing was also massacred. No, I don't believe it. Dong Hanzong regained his senses and immediately roared, rushing to Han Zongqing. Princess Yuxian, Inner Demons, Lu Jiajin, and Dong Qingyuan also quickly followed. When the five of them arrived in the sky above Han Zongqing, the ground that was riddled with holes, the blood, and the bones on the ground immediately entered their sight. At this moment, Han Zongqing was simply like an Azura hell, sending chills down their spines. Who is it? Who is it? Dong Hanzong looked at this scene in disbelief, and a monstrous murderous aura rushed out of his body. The city was really massacred. There was nothing left. The family business that he had worked so hard to build for many years was all gone in an instant. This kind of feeling almost made him collapse. Look! The inner demons pointed to the void above, and his pupils contracted tightly. Lu Jiajin, Dong Hanzong, Dong Qingyuan, and Princess Yuxian all looked up and immediately saw the bloody words left by Long Chen. I originally didn't have the intention to kill indiscriminately, but the Divine Kingdom is too tyrannical. If you know your wrongs, I am willing to negotiate with you to create peace and prosperity between the two worlds. But if you insist on being stubborn, I can only stop killing with killing, and let the people of the Divine Kingdom be plunged into misery and suffering. Rivers of blood will flow. Every word was filled with a terrifying domineering aura. This was what Long Chun had left behind. He was not a lunatic, nor was he a cold-blooded person. Seeing so many people die in his hands, He really couldn't bear it. Negotiate? Dream on. If I don't kill you, I'm not human. Dong Hanzong roared hysterically. Dong Qingyuan and Princess Yuxian clenched their hands tightly, and their eyes were filled with anger and murderous intent. After killing the 9 great commanders and massacring Han Zongqing, he still wanted to negotiate with them? Don't be naive. This blood feud was irreconcilable. Boom. Suddenly, another powerful aura descended. This was a golden figure, and his entire body exuded an emperor's aura that made people submit to him. That's right. The emperor had arrived in person. Father, your majesty. Dong Hanzong, Dong Qingyuan, and Princess Yuxian immediately flew to the emperor's side. The emperor raised his hand, signaling the 3 to calm down, and then looked at the bloody words left by Long Chun. Your majesty, the words 2 worlds clearly refer to the sky cloud realm and our divine kingdom. The murderer must be Qin Feiyang. Even if it's not Qin Feiyang, it must be his accomplice. Dong Qingyuan said in a deep voice. If it's really Qin Feiyang, it's actually a good thing for us. The emperor said. What? A good thing? Dong Qingyuan and the other 2 looked at the emperor in shock. Lu Jiajin and the inner demons were also surprised by the emperor's words. Killing the 9 great commanders and massacring Han Zongqing, and the speed was so fast that we couldn't even react. Think about how terrifying such means are. If this person is really Qin Feiyang's accomplice, do you know that not only will we have to face a powerful opponent like Qin Feiyang in the future, but we will also have to face an enemy that may be even more terrifying than Qin Feiyang? The emperor said in a deep voice. Dong Qingyuan, Dong Hanzong, and Princess Yuxian's eyes trembled when they heard this. Hearing the emperor's words, it was indeed reasonable. If it was really Qin Feiyang, the situation in the future would still be the same as before. They just needed to find a way to kill Qin Feiyang. But if the murderer was Qin Feiyang's accomplice, then they would have another terrifying enemy in the future. That was because Han Zongqing, who had instantly killed 9 great commanders and massacred millions of people in such a short period of time, must possess heaven-defying strength to accomplish such a feat. This person might not be inferior to Qin Feiyang, or he might be even more terrifying than Qin Feiyang. Where are the members of the Death God army guarding Han Zongqing? The emperor asked. Dong Qingyuan sighed and said, I'm afraid something bad has happened to them. Let me see if there are any other creatures nearby. If there are, they should have witnessed the entire process of this person massacring Han Zongqing with their own eyes. The inner demon released its divine sense, which spread out in all directions. Soon, his eyes lit up. As he waved his hand, the 4 young men and women struggled and flew over uncontrollably. The emperor and the others also looked at the 4 people. The 4 people's faces were pale, and they trembled. That was because they were the witnesses. Don't be afraid. These 2 are the emperor of the Central Dynasty and Princess Yuxian. The inner demons comforted them. Greetings, your majesty, your highness. The 4 people quickly knelt in the void. Did you see that person commit the murder? Princess Yuxian asked. Yes, at that time, we happened to be training in the mountains outside the city. When we heard the commotion, we immediately rushed over to check. But we didn't expect to see this scene. It's too terrifying. In just a dozen breaths, he massacred everyone. Even the members of the Death God army did not have any power to fight back. He's a devil, the 4 people said intermittently. Their bodies were trembling nonstop, and their pupils were dilated. They seemed to be scared out of their wits. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.